Good morning, guys. 1 week has passed. One game of week 2 has passed, and we are getting ready for the week number 2 fantasy football season. This is the Fantasy and Frames fantasy pregame show. We will be right back. God, can we do Holy hell. You ever had something when you're so prepped and then catastrophe is about to set in? Well, my phone is hooked up to my computer, and if I don't hit cancel, why I can't figure this out is beyond me. I'm hopefully better at fantasy football advice than I am at phone advice, but it was getting ready to blast off, and I'm scrambling here, keeping a straight face if I can, and not letting it just rattle through, which probably would have been better than that introduction. But regardless, I digress. Good morning, Nate Markham, Jorge Edwards, Keith Fleming, many to join, others coming in staggered. Is that fair to say, Jorge?
Yeah, different time zones, different situations, different Saturday night plans will dictate when people will be marching in here. So
Bunch of drunks is what Jorge's saying.
a bunch of lucky Georgia fans for some reason they decided.
Ah, yikes!
Yeah, it was a close call for you there last night, there, Keith.
Yeah, I was pretty stressed because we got Bama next week, so a loss last night would have been catastrophic because we have, I think, Alabama, Texas, LSU the next 3 weeks. It's a brutal stretch.
Yowzers. Is that what people are going to say? They were looking too far ahead to Bama not taking Kentucky for what they're worth?
I hope not, because Kirby is a big believer and we don't make excuses. I'm sure them boys are going to have a very rough Monday morning at practice because he did not look happy on the sidelines and he does not make excuses. So I tell the fans, if the coaching staff and the players can't make excuses, we as fans definitely shouldn't. You should give credit to Kentucky, who played a great game, and we played really bad. So, it is what it is. Just very thankful we got out of there with a W.
Well, what we'll find out today, along with the rest of the games, is will the Atlanta Falcons get out of week 2 with the W? Keith and I are both on the Falcons bandwagon now. If you notice ahead, I have converted, no longer a Chiefs fan. I am now solely behind the Falcons. I figure sometimes you just don't like winning and you just want a taste of the other side. And
that's like being like, I'm living in a mansion, but you know what? I want to go live in a trailer, or I drive a Ferrari and I want to go get a Pinto. So you might get committed, buddy, with that thought process. Be careful.
Well, we'll learn today with a number of different calls. Well, no, we'll learn today throughout the show that there are a lot of things that if the definition serves me correct, that if you continue to do the same things with expectation of different results, the definition of an insanity. And I feel like a lot of the plays that we continue to talk about week in and week out, Jorge, might make us definable crazy. We'll see.
I was about to say, Falcons fans, but no, you're right. Crazy. We're crazy.
Yeah.
I'm a Commanders fan, so I don't really got room to talk. So
they're doing something different. I mean, a lot of changes.
We're doing something different with Atlanta. They got a whole new organization. Sans Arthur Blank. It's everybody's new. But
hey, if you watched week 1, it looked a lot like the stuff that I've seen before. So, same crap, different day.
If you watched week 1 for the Commanders, you will have had flashbacks to 2012, where all your quarterback did was scramble all over the place, and then God forbid gets hit, and then you didn't see helmets fly off in 2012. They actually strapped them in back then, but. I digress.
Yeah, actually, the ironic part of that is part of that was going to be about the Commanders, mostly about Cliff Kingsbury and doing the exact same thing, and us expecting Terry McLaurin, to have different outcomes by just being thrown to the left side. You stay.
You stay.
Don't move. Nope, not. Well, you have headphones on, Keith. It's not like he can hear, but. regardless, let's see if we can. Oh my God, you want to talk about same thing happening over and over? Thursday night, Miami, we witnessed what was supposed to be, I thought, a complete shootout. Turned out that Devin Achane was not hurt, but obviously we'll just jump right into Tua. We want to wish him well. I think that's probably where we should just leave it there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do they make a move? Pick up somebody?
They better not play him. Let's put it that way anytime soon, or I'm going to be really upset.
Well, yeah, there's been the Tannehill talk, him going back to where it all started for him in Miami, but I don't think there's anything substantiated with that.
Yeah.
Cooler.
Not either. I think that, I mean, getting Mike White back might not be a bad option. I think that seems.
He's on the. I think he's on the Bills.
I thought he was on the practice squad.
Mike White, like the former Jets quarterback.
Yep.
I don't think he's on the Dolphins anymore. I thought he was on the Dolphins like a year ago.
I know. I think he's on Buffalo or Baltimore's practice squad. They can just pick him off. Boop. Bring him back.
How about that?
You know who your friends are when that is my buddy Donald, and he's saying Georgia got some home cooking last night. Thanks a lot, Donald. Appreciate that. In Kentucky, I don't know how that worked. How do you get home cooking in Kentucky?
Hey, you're talking to the right person, because how do the Chiefs get compassion in no matter the stadium they're at? But I do see question number 1 of the day. Mark DeSilva wants to say, first of all, happy football day. Happy football day back to you, Mark. It's a full point PPR, Keith. He needs one of these: Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson, Wandale, or the Dortch. He does have Kyler Murray, so the stack with Dortch is there.
Yeah, I mean, I love Dortch. Everybody knows that.
I love Dortch.
I tried to get people to be leery about Deontay Johnson when everybody was on the hype train this summer. I would still wait to see before I would be using Deontay. I think Wandale Robinson is the answer. PPR, he scored at least 10 points now in 5 straight games. And the big thing, Washington, last week, they gave up 23 receptions for over 200 yards from receivers in the slot. Wandale Robinson lines up in the slot about 60 to 70% of his snaps. So I think that he is the safest play by sure out of those 4. If you're looking for upside, I would want to say Ridley, but he's probably going to be shadowed, which is not a good place to be. So I actually think probably the most upside would, God, I can't believe I'm saying this, would probably be Dortch with Murray. But I think that I could see any of those guys having basically an awful game and scoring 3-4 points, except for Wandale Robinson. I'd be shocked if they don't get, at least 8 to 10 points in a full point PPR. He's like eating your vegetables. You need to do it. It's not fun, but it will, help you stay healthy, or your fantasy football teams for that matter.
Yeah, it's gross too. Jorge, anything to add to that, or do you disagree?
No, I 100% back with Wandale Robinson. The Commanders got just destroyed by Chris Godwin out of the slot last week, and that's exactly what if the Giants are, smart, they're going to emphasize that. I shouldn't even say the Giants are smart. If Daniel Jones can play like a quarterback and get the ball to Wandale Robinson 2 games in a row, that's going to be something.
And I will triple up on Wandale, because the one area that I was looking at is that if Wandale does what we expect Wandale to do, which is catch short, intermediate, have a relatively low ceiling by comparison, but his floor is the highest. I was like, okay, well, what if one of the 4, who's most likely to see the red zone targets? And I know week 1's a small sample size compared to, but shockingly, Wandale was tied for the league lead in red zone targets.
Wow.
Now, granted, he only caught 1 of them, but he had 3 red zone targets last week. So who knew? I wouldn't have been able to answer that. So.
Aren't you glad they went and got Malik Neighbors and they're targeting Wandale Robinson at the red zone 3 times?
Give it time. Give it time. Let it build. We'll see after
Sorry,
the
Joe
end of this
Mats.
week. No. All right, DFS. This for you, Keith. I don't have my DK up to know the numbers, but you do off the top of your head, I'm guessing. So
Probably.
Najee, Brian Robinson Jr., or Ramondre Stevenson and Wandale. Sounds like he's wanting to pair those two because the math makes sense.
So I am gonna lean Najee and Brian Robinson. They're two backs that are in a majority of my cash game lineups. Brian Robinson at 5,800 feels like an extreme value. The Giants defense, 6th most rushing yards allowed last season. Obviously still having issues as Aaron Jones rushed for almost 100 yards on just 14 carries at over 6 yards per carry last week. And then what was really impressive with Robinson is we worried about what's the split going to be between him and Eckler. He had 84% of the rush attempts in that offense. And I know this was just, again, as Nate was saying, a 1-week sample, but had the same amount of targets and receptions as Austin Eckler as well. So I do think Washington is going to beat the Giants, but worst case, I think they're going to be in that game, allowing them to run a lot more than they did week 1 versus Tampa, where they were down. And then Najee Harris is probably my favorite play in cash at the running back position this week. Another guy where we didn't know what the splits were going to be. 89% of the Steelers' rush attempts last week were by Najee Harris. I know it was 20 for 70 yards, not a great stat line, but the Falcons, for all their issues, are a pretty good run defense. You cannot say the same about the Denver Broncos, who gave up 5 yards per carry last season for the year, which is practically impossible. Like, if they didn't actually do that, I would think it would be impossible to give up 5 yards on the year per rush attempt. And we saw that Arthur Smith is going to run the ball with Justin Fields as his QB. They had, I think, 42 rush attempts to just 24 pass attempts. That is going to be their game plan week in and week out with Fields. And the great part about this matchup is Denver, and God bless Bo Nix, I don't think that offense is going to be able to get up enough on that Pittsburgh defense to where they're in a heavy, they get into a heavy throw script. They're going to be able to kind of control the ball the way they want to. And I actually think both Harris and Fields are in line for a big game against a really bad rush defense.
Let me throw a curveball at you. It's not what he meant to say when he said Brian Robinson Jr., Brian Thomas Jr. Without does it change? Does it change? Does it change your opinion?
If it was Brian Thomas Jr. with him
instead of Brian Robinson Jr.?
No, I actually really like Brian Thomas Jr. as well. I mean, if you look, he got 4 targets, 4 receptions, a touchdown. And Stevenson, like the Patriots, we'll see. Like, they had a really good week 1 running the ball. I just don't know if that recipe is going to be that easy week in and week out. Even against the Seattle team, I know they've had issues against the run and like their line and stuff's banged up. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how their offense does. But I really like Najee, and I would much rather play Brian Thomas over Wandale Robinson. He's about $700, I think, more than Robinson, but Thomas has a much higher upside.
Okay. Preston wants to know an ugly start sit question. Man,
Mm-hmm.
Kirk.
Ugly? I mean,
it's pretty ugly.
If that's your, it sounds like that's a QB. It's a 1 QB question, and you have to choose between most likely the QB, 18 and maybe 21 on the week. That's not a good situation to be in. I don't know why he's in the situation, unless maybe it's a super flex and this is a QB2. And in that case, I would say maybe you don't have to start a quarterback in the super flex. But regardless, nope, right below it, 1 QB. There you go. It's ugly. Doesn't matter. Jorge, which way you leaning?
Between Christian Kirk or Danny Dimes?
No, Kirk.
No,
Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
Kirk Cousins. Excuse me, Kirk Cousins. It's Kirk Cousins. It's Kirk Cousins.
I don't
care about the matchup. He had a bad week. It looked bad. I'm not sugarcoating it. Obviously, the stats stand for themselves. But I trust him to throw the ball on 1 bad leg than I do Danny Dimes to throw it on 2. So,
well, that's the difference. That's why I'm picking Daniel Jones. I'm done saying the Danny Dimes stuff, but Daniel Jones, because I don't want him to throw the ball. I want him to use his legs like he's done in the past and show us that his athletic ability can support a floor higher than Cousins. Looks like Keith, You have to break the tie.
Whew. I honestly would check the waiver wire and see if there's any guys out there.
I'm guessing he has.
But if I had to pick one, I'm just one of those weird people. I like having the guy go on Monday night, especially if it's close. So that way it gives me a little extra rooting interest. And I also think Philly is going to be up in that game and forcing the Falcons to throw. So I would slightly lean Kirk Cousins. But after what I saw Sunday, I am very nervous. It was rough.
I want to be optimistic. So I want to, give confidence in Kirk because, again, first week back, that does have a lot to do with the comfortability, stability, concern of instability with the Achilles, etc. But good enough. Preston, we know you're going to ball out. You can win with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. You're that set. Blake, on the other hand, is stacked with too many good players, doesn't know what to do. Running backs that he have, Breece Hall, Saquon, Pollard, Jones, Mason, Charbonnet. Holy moly. Wide receivers are Higgins, Cooks. Okay, well, take the good, you take them bad, you take them both, and there you have Blake's team. Would you trade Jones for Pittman, non-PPR? Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Which Jones? Is he talking about?
I think he's talking about Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones is my guess.
Aaron Jones? Absolutely. I would with that running back room. I mean, You're not going to start Aaron Jones week in and week out, and you're getting a number one wide receiver in what should be a pretty good offense with the Colts and Shane Steichen. So I would do that without hesitation.
Absolutely.
The deep ball, threat that Pittman brings is perfect for a non-PPR where you may have to worry about him getting heavy target volume with that wide receiving room that it, stacked as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Get you those tons of yardage on chunk plays, which is exactly what you want for non-PPR. So
there you go. And so with starting 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, no flex, get the feeling we're going to see Blake Sunday mornings a lot, trying to make decisions when it comes to that many talented players, which, I welcome. I like having a question when it's like, oh, who do I start between Saquon Barkley and Breece Hall and Jordan Mason? I'm like,
I was drafting with first timers, and they gave me all the good players, but I'm still, and that's just fantasy football because you could have all the great players come draft day, and then your matchups for the week.
Well, that could be a super flex league that he was picking at the end of round 1, and Breece Hall and Saquon were both there, and he didn't ask us quarterback questions. So you know what you don't know, you don't know. But what we do know is that week 2 is going to start off with the first game of the week of the Las Vegas Raiders at the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are 8.5-point favorites. The point total is 41.5 right now. The number of players that are out is very limited, which is good because that is going to change as the games progress. Tyree Wilson is out for the Raiders. Nate Wiggins, cornerback for the Baltimore Ravens, is doubtful, trending to out. That these updates will change throughout the games today, and we'll go back and talk about any implications or impacts that maybe we overlooked. But guys, I can say confidently in this matchup, Lamar's in our lineups, Derrick Henry's in our lineups. Albeit to say, no one's taken Devontae Adams out of their lineup in week 2, even if it's not the sexiest of upside against Baltimore. But Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, Brock Bowers. Oh, look at that. That's cleverly done, Nate. I have to say they're pretty confident. The only of those 4 names, Mark, if you had to choose between Andrews, Likely, and Bowers, who would have to sit if you sat one? I guess really it'd be Andrews or Likely, probably.
I'm going to say Likely because I don't think you just ignore Mark Andrews. I think he just faced a double team situation last week, and I think having Likely perform as well as he did is kind of going to hurt him and be a little bit of a detriment because now teams are going to have to, single cover both of these tight ends, and so now it kind of gives Andrews a little bit more wiggle room. Ironically, I like how you said it comes down to the Baltimore tight ends because I think we're all in agreement that Brock Bowers is in a great position this week to continue his hot streak that he started last week.
Yeah.
It's not hot when you're just great.
Well, and it's not a streak if it's only one game. So neither one of those, good job, Jorge. Way to ruin that. He's nothing. He's not a hot streak. He's Brock Bowers. But
He's
after
Brock.
next week, we will know. We will say yes, his streak of expected success will continue, and Brock Bowers will. Here's a question: at what point during the season, Kevin, you chime in with your percentage too here, or which week? At what week number does Brock Bowers have a higher target percentage than Devontae Adams?
Was it last week? Because he had 24%. It was second.
I thought Devontae was higher by a point. If I'm wrong, then that ruins that entire thing.
I was just curious. I mean, it could. I think it'll definitely happen in the first 4 weeks. He's gonna. I mean, it was a lot of why I really like Bowers. And I know a lot of people questioned what are they doing drafting a tight end when they drafted a tight end the year before. They drafted Bowers as an offensive weapon. Do what, buddy?
It was Bowers. Bowers had a target share of 24.2%. Devontae 18.2.
No kidding.
Yeah, because I knew he had the second highest tight end rate. Only McBride had a higher, of the main slate. Obviously, likely had a higher one, but
there you go. I have a air yard share as the highlighted spot between the two. So yeah, never mind. Well, there we go. There's the answer to the trivia question, everyone. When's going to happen? Last week. Already did. So when will Devontae Adams take it back is probably the better question. We'll probably say never. No, it'll be
I think this week. Because I was going to say Adams, I know it's not a sexy play, but for his career, when teams blitz, which the Ravens do quite a lot, Adams typically gets peppered with targets. And again, I know he's not sexy, but he's actually, I think, a really good value on DraftKings this week at like 7,300 because I think they're going to be down. That's why I like actually both Bowers and Adams this week on DraftKings. Is Ravens will be up, Raiders are going to be throwing. They bring a lot of pressure, and I think those are going to be the two guys most likely to get those. Got to get rid of the ball quickly, pass attempts.
Yeah, it's also Kyle Hamilton is who will probably bring some of that target attention down just a little bit. But all right, Kyle wants to know full point PPR, pick one, Travis Etienne, Jerome Ford. That's closer than I think that I ever would have thought it would be. If this was going into the season, knowing Chubb was going to be out, but not knowing just how impactful Tank Bigsby might be on that ETN workload. What do you think, Keith?
I actually lean Ford. I think it's a really tough matchup for ETN. We saw that Bigsby is going to play a much bigger role. I guess I was a year off on all my, this will be more of a split backfield than because last year ETN got all the touches, and that was a lot of his value, similar to Rachaad White, right? He wasn't necessarily the most effective runner. He just was always on the field and always involved in, run and pass plays. Ford right now is getting a lot of workload. And what I really like was the passing game. Deshaun Watson is an awful QB who did not want to throw the ball down the field. So that is very good for Jerome Ford. I think he saw like 7 targets last week. So I think you could see a similar thing like that. If it was a standard league, I would definitely lean ETN. But in a PPR, I think I like Jerome Ford.
Yeah, I really want to feel comfortable that ETN will have so many targets in a game where I think they're going to be. I don't know if they're going to be losing or not. Man, I keep thinking Cleveland's defense is going to do their job, and I think that Kyle just said exactly what I was getting ready to say. Is ETN, when that fumble is really, you saw. I mean, it was early enough that the shift was like it was hard to determine if it was predetermined or if it was as a result of that. But I'm going to lean ETN for one more week because I don't think it's going to be hugely separate. I don't see either ceiling or floor being drastic myself. And I would go ETN for one more week. But don't be shocked if, like you said, Keith, we see Tank continue to eat into that workload. But all right, for season long, Christian Watson or Calvin Ridley?
Oh, God.
I know. I'm
this
leaning
would be
Ridley
an easy.
still.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. I think it's even easier right now because of you're probably going to get 3-4 weeks of Malik Willis,
I know.
which is rough. I just I can't believe that is Green Bay's answer for the Love answer, or for injury, even if it's just for a short period of time. The Malik Willis that I saw in Tennessee was, I mean, he makes Deshaun Watson look like Joe Montana. So it's going to be rough. I would definitely lean Ridley. I mean, Tennessee was actually fairly impressive last week, I thought. And if Levis can just figure it out a little bit and then get Hopkins fully healthy, I think that Tennessee's offense could end up being a little bit friskier than people expected.
Jorge, any
Sorry, looking up so many stats and not looking at the screen here. Yeah, I would go. God, this is gross because which Titans. I still consider Malik Willis a Titans quarterback, even though he's technically in Green Bay, but they both are on the same team at the same time. Like, which Titans quarterback from a year ago sucks less?
the answer is Will Levis for that.
Will Levis. So yeah, exactly. So I'll go Calvin with you.
I will say that it's going to be the Sean Clifford led Green Bay Packers from weeks 3, 4.
Why did they do that the first week? Do you know? Like, is it?
I don't know.
That's what I thought immediately when I saw low. I was like, oh, it's Clifford time. And then I was really surprised to see Willis is starting.
Well, maybe it was activation from the practice squad. Willis had the most snaps with the team, and I don't know. Maybe it's Green Bay. Just if Jonathan was here, I would compliment him and say this is Green Bay's way of trying to give the other teams a little bit of an edge, and we'll go. But let's continue on here. Let's talk about the running game in both Vegas and Baltimore. Baltimore, we know, is going to be Derrick Henry. I think this is the game that they are going to lean on Henry, and Derrick Henry owners who only might get 18 to 20 rush attempts, but 110 and a touchdown.
He averages 10 more points per game in fantasy for his career in wins than he does losses. So, probably a good day to have Derrick Henry in your lineups.
Jorge, if you had Alexander Mattison and Zamir White and you had to choose one, number one, sorry, your team sucks because you have both those two, but never know. Who are you starting?
So when looking at success rates, either playing zone or man gap concepts as far as defenses are concerned, Madison actually checks both boxes in terms of having the higher success rate between the two. It's gross, but if you said I had to pick one, I think I might go with Madison this week.
Yeah, the fact that you have to bring stats out to justify taking anybody over Zamir White is unnecessary, and you wasted 2 minutes of your time. But
I'm not giving up on Zamir White.
Don't give up on him.
Say, Nate, this is the portion of the show where I was wrong, you were right. But I'm not giving up on him. But it looked rough last week. I was very disappointed.
I will never take a victory lap on choosing a Las Vegas Raiders backfield situation after 1 week when they were clearly down and it wasn't looking good. I don't think this is the week that they're going to be favored either or get a lead. But yeah, I'm never been the biggest Zamir White fan, but it would never shock me if Antonio Pierce goes back to his, the guy that he trusted in so many games, but he still sucks. So I just want to give a little bit of positivity to Zamir White owners out there. I want to bring some positivity to potentially a sneaky flex, Keith, from a DFS standpoint, maybe just maybe, is Rashad Bateman, who had 40% of the air yards in week 1, only 12% target rate, obviously clearly behind Likely and Zay in first reads. Is he a DFS play that if you want to shoot the moon and think that, you're never going to really go Lamar and Bateman, but if Bateman was there, or am I just grasping at, potential flex straws that are going to throw somebody's money down the tube?
No, I mean, in MME, take your shots. The only thing that I would say, I actually like Bateman a good bit in MME tournaments this year as a whole, but my concern is with the Ravens passing game this week, and this is across the board, is they're going to get up and they're just going to pound the rock because, I mean, let's be honest, you have Lamar, the number one goal should be keeping him healthy. You have Derrick Henry, you have Justice Hill. Like, to me, once they get up, a touchdown too, which should be fairly early in this game, I would pound the rock. But there's a lot of very smart people out there who have said that if you look at it, we could finally get the Rashad Bateman breakout year in this offense. And I'm such a believer in Todd Monken, who I just think is one of the best play callers in the NFL. Was amazing at Georgia, that he continues to start him, right, and put him out there a lot. So they believe in him. So it's never crazy in MME and an elite offense to take a shot on a wide receiver. Just my concern would be the game script.
Gotcha. Jorge, tell us a little bit about the IDP options here. Give me 1 second. I will return, and then we'll answer Albert's question for the full point PPR.
Sure. So one of my preseason guys for the Las Vegas Raiders, who I was really high on, just because I was making comps to him and Carl Granderson of the Saints a couple of years ago, who another defensive lineman / edge rusher who had success down the stretch of their initial season there with their respective teams. Malcolm Kuntz last year was finishing very strongly for the Raiders. He's out for 4 weeks. It's not a season-ending injury. It's just more of a 4-week stint. No matter, you still have Christian Wilkins versus the run. You have Max Crosby. Yes, they faced a tough matchup this week, meaning last week, Max Crosby, in regards to the offensive tackle play there. I still think they're both solid matchups, especially Christian Wilkins in defensive tackle specific leagues. Roquan Smith and Trent Williams. We saw Trent Williams, have a productive game. He didn't have 70% more snaps, but that's bound to happen going forward. Roquan Smith is Roquan Smith. You're starting Roquan Smith. And Kyle Hamilton, it's hard for me to lose faith in the draft, the number one drafted defensive back in all of IDP fantasy football. So, yeah.
And yeah, he'll be heavily targeted and be involved in that. Good call. So, all right.
And Robert Swain, linebacker for the Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
So sorry.
No, that's a great call. Albert has a pick 2 full point PPR question. Chris Olave, Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore. I'm taking DJ Moore. 100% is my one, especially with the potential injuries to Odunze and Keenan Allen. Does anybody disagree with DJ Moore first and foremost?
I would definitely have him in my top 2 for sure.
Okay. Jorge, who were you leaning, Chris Olave or Brandon Ayuk?
So I'm going to go off of my rankings, which you can find over at fantasyandframes.com for half PPR. As we're in the half PPR competition there for Fantasy Pros. And I have DJ Moore at 13 and I have Brandon Ayuk at 16. So those are my top 2 right there.
All right. So DJ Moore.
Like that.
Like that. We got props now. All right. And I'm going to play with as much of this as I can because I can. Why not? Let's move on. Evan has a question. Another Najee Harris potential. So it's Najee or Tony Pollard. It's half point PPR key. Both have good matchups, really torn between the two. After last week's performance, they have Tony Pollard. And this is my little pieces to this puzzle that I would try to put in my head. Does Pollard replicate last week? Tajay Spears have any more involvement? Does Najee replicate last week? And does Jaylen Warren have any more involvement? Jaylen Warren was coming off injury, so I didn't expect him to be. Does Cordell Patterson vulture anything? It's a lot of questions that I had to get answers for myself for Evan. But I'm going to go with Najee myself. But, man, I could understand Pollard. What do you think, Keith?
That's where I lean to. I will say if you're looking for what is more likely to have just like a monster game, the potential is there for Pollard because his Jets defense, boy, they've had issues with the run. Like if you look under Big Bob, I think it's now like 8 of their last 15 opponents have rushed for at least 130 rushing yards. The issue is if they get behind, it's going to be the Tajay Spears show, right? Because he's so much more involved in the passing game. I don't see, and this is no disrespect and anything can happen, but Bo Nix and that Denver offense is not going to get up with what I saw in that from that Pittsburgh defense in Atlanta, who was incredible. And it's the one thing that not enough people are talking about. Yes, the Falcons look like shit, don't get me wrong, but that defense was just unreal. And I think that they're going to have a game where Arthur Smith, he has proven this in Atlanta, he will take his opportunity to just pound the rock, especially in a rock fight, which I think that's what Denver-Pittsburgh is going to be. So I think Najee's going to get a lot of carries. He got a majority of the red zone touches. He got a majority of the rush attempts. I just think that's a much safer play.
Gotcha. Jorge, anything to add?
I have Najee as my RB2 heading into the week and Pollard as my 12. I think they're both fantastic. Have both fantastic plays right here. We saw last week Tony Pollard rip off that amazing run to get into the end zone. So, they brought him in here for a reason. I'm not so concerned with Tajay Spears just yet, eating into his workload too much to the point where he's not relevant, but definitely both top 12 plays for me this week.
Yeah, he definitely looks fully recovered from that ankle fracture from last year. But talk about fractured. The Carolina Panthers will host the Los Angeles Chargers.
That was a greeny pivot there.
Thank you very much. He'd be proud of he wouldn't be proud of the way the Carolina Panthers are playing, but it is a Chargers 5-point favor and a 39 point total. Joey Bosa didn't practice Friday. Joshua Palmer didn't practice Friday. Two seemingly impactful pieces to the Chargers, both on offense and defense. I still don't know if without those two, I can even consider the Chargers getting any closer. But, here, Justin Herbert was a QB 24 last week. I don't know if it gets much more, not juicy, but I want to say opportunistic. But then at the same time, I'm thinking 180 and a touchdown could be a likely scenario with the ground game. Here's your choice. Which one do you think is more likely to happen with Justin Herbert? 200 yards passing and 1 touchdown, or 300 yards passing and 2 touchdowns?
201 for sure.
I think so too.
Yeah.
We know it's Justin Herbert, and there will be some Justin Herbert fans that will think that's an outrageous statement that's a possibility. But it's
not anything against Herbert. It's the Saints. Look what the Saints team did against the Panthers. Like, you don't think the Chargers and Jim freaking Harbaugh is not going to see that and just be like, I'm going to pound it down your throat?
That's the question. Let's say that you have that scenario, and we do. J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards. I think you can flex both of them. But let's say it's a standard league, no PPR, not that was really going to impact either extremely, but that would lean J.K. Dobbins. Let's say standard. You have Dobbins with the yardage potentially, Edwards with the touchdown upside. Which way would you lean if you had to choose one, Jorge?
I'm still going J.K. Dobbins. I think he's capable of breaking out a large run is even better this week. And he has a really advantageous matchup going up against this defensive line for the Carolina Panthers, which is what we'll get into when we talk about the IDP for this matchup.
There's somebody on Carolina you want to talk about? Gross. No, it's the lack of somebody I know.
He's not on Carolina anymore for the rest of the season.
No.
So yeah, give me Dobbins. I have him right now as my 13, right behind Tony Pollard. So I think he proved himself last week that he's capable of handling a workload. And you talk about non-PPR or standard. 10 attempts for 135, 13.5 yards per attempt. He got you close to 20 fantasy points. And he got you 4 targets, 3 receptions, albeit the yardage was not there. Multifaceted playmaker. Gus Edwards looked kind of slow, man. I'm not going to lie. And I feel like, in Baltimore, these two running backs, they were also neck and neck in terms of attempts within the 5-yard line and scoring position. I don't think that's going to be something you have to worry about with J.K. Dobbins. I think Dobbins is the in between the 20s, in between the 10s guy, and Edwards is going to be the goal line.
Buses don't go fast, so he's not supposed to go fast. He's supposed to go slow and get your kids safely into the end zone, which is maybe what he can do one time. But the rest of the Chargers offense, we'll answer this question real quick. I'm sorry. So it's a 16-man team league. Love these, by the way. I think they're great. AR, Brees, ETN, Amon-Ra, Terry, Kyle Pitts, Rashid Shaheed. I would say by the inflection of my voice, I don't normally get excited like that. I think that in a 12-person league, I wouldn't have any problem with that. I really wouldn't. I think it's a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I want to, so just selfishly, because I am in a 16-team league down in Panama City this year. And I want you guys to tell me, because ESPN gave me an F. And normally that doesn't bother me. But this team, I felt like it was a crime. So again, 16 person team or league team.
I'm comparing your team to Christian's, by the way, right now. So go ahead.
We got Kyler Murray, Devin Achane, Bucky Irvin, Ladd, Khalil Shakir, Travis Kelce, Terry McLaurin, and then my bench: Dortch, Dottle, Fields, Higgins, Justin Hill, Puka, and Jonathan Brooks on the IR.
Okay.
How is that an F?
It's not an F, but if they're grade, sometimes I think those grades don't take into account 16-team leagues. I really don't think. I think that the algorithm is kind of built around 12. I know they can change it, but I don't think it actually affects it, because I've seen people 16-team leagues like Christians and not get a good score because they don't have a good bench, or
like for me, my running backs I know are weak, but it's like, how can you be strong at every position? It's a 16-team league.
And that leads me to a question. And since we're talking about Carolina, has your optimism in a week 5 return of Jonathan Brooks and fantasy value taken a hit with just how bad they've looked? Or I don't think so either. I have him in a few. I'm holding hope that,
right? Like, he's gonna obviously get the ball. Look how bad that offense. They need something.
No Chuba slander on Sunday morning around.
Oh, you're right. I like Chuba, but I'm just saying, I don't know
if
Chuba is the kind of athlete that can make a difference, to where Brooks, his athletic score is up there with like Jonathan Taylor and some of these guys that are elite. Breece Hall, like elite running backs. Breece Hall made an immediate impact despite a garbage team around him, a garbage QB play, et cetera.
Correct. Well, you hit the, a perfect segue again. Talk about elite athleticism. Maybe no Joshua Palmer. Zlad McConkey, the rosterable in a 12-team league as a wide receiver 3 in a game where we don't expect him to throw that much. But no Joshua Palmer, not really many other weapons there. Jorge, let me ask you first here.
Didn't Ladd get into the end zone last week, if memory serves me correctly? Like,
he did.
He is the saving grace at the wide receiver position for the Los Angeles Chargers. So I would expect another big game this week if Palmer can't go. Big game. He got you 14 PPR points, 15 PPR points, but he is the guy.
So Shizza wants to know, is it a glitch on Fantasy Pros? You have Najee as the RB3 this week. You just love the matchup. As I said earlier, you said he was your RB2. I feel like now we have to check the receipts on that. Looky there. What do you know? Hey, he's on the case. Or they are on the case. Whatever. I don't know. But
fantasy receipts. Nice. I love
it. Check yourself, buddy.
So let's see here. On the
busted
now. No, in half PPR, he is my number 2. In PPR, he is my number 3. Yes.
This is scary because he's like my favorite back in DFS cash games this week. So it's like, man, we're all in on Najee. Yikes. Here we go.
Perfect. Oh, good. The accountability will be there. We will all remember everything. I don't remember.
I can't even do that.
Last week.
My fingers are so messed up from playing basketball. I can't even hardly make that move anymore. Thanks a lot.
Oh, is that the Yoda sign?
That's the Star Trek, right?
Dude, yes. I know what it is. It's just my way. This just gives me so much fun. Gotcha. What's not fun is anybody on the Carolina offense. You have to start somebody, or you don't have to start somebody. I don't have a problem with starting nobody. I know Deontay, people still, myself included, think PPR upside. Maybe Bryce will get him 10 targets, 12 targets. They don't have Joey Bosa, so maybe the pressures won't be there as much. The linebackers and the corners and LA are pretty solid, but I don't know. I can't start comfortably.
How
to
about my boy
recommend.
Leggett? Like he's the guy that I
No.
keep starting. Okay.
I mean, I just say no. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable starting Leggett over. I mean, I think there's waiver options in just better matchups.
No, you said any Panther, and I'm saying that if I
Mhm.
had to start a Panther, I would rather start Leggett than Deontay Johnson. I've been
Okay.
saying this all summer that the dude's had like a gazillion targets, over 144 targets, 3 seasons, and only one time was he top 25 and fantasy points. Like that's, just because you're getting a lot of targets doesn't necessarily mean you're putting up points. I feel like that one year was the outlier. And then with what Bryce looked like, I've tried to defend Bryce. I'm done.
I know. Me too.
I wish him the best, and man, I hope I'm wrong. But after week 1 and trying to say maybe it's going to be better this year, I can't defend him anymore. Good God, I just can't.
No, I feel you, man. I feel you. Jorge, defensive side of the football. Said earlier, no Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, and then what do you think of that Chargers like linebacker rotation? I'm not sold myself, but maybe you can persuade me.
Yeah, well, I don't think I can persuade you just because there's not a lot of consistently high snap percentages between all these linebackers for the Chargers, and so you're kind of left picking like, ooh, any, meeny, miny, mo, no thank you. On the flip side, as gross as this is going to be for Carolina offensively, you look at Josie Jewell. Oh my God, I'm blanking on the second. Shaq. I think these are great volume plays just because they're going to get run on. I think obviously I have Dobbins where I have them, so they're going to get run on a lot. They're going to get a lot of opportunity. Outside of that, Derek Barnes going on the IR. That's even more of a reason to, you lose your best defensive player, aka your defensive tackle. This rushing attack for the Chargers is going to eat, and you better than 2 run-stopping linebackers to help with that. In case you were wondering, I do have a drop for when I do ramble on. It's called this one. Hold on. Ready? You ready?
Yo, the sign is real simple, B. It says wrap it up. Sit up, B.
Where is that from?
I don't know. I would have to admit,
Start
off real loud and kind of garbled. So maybe that's.
Yo, the sign is real simple, B.
There we go.
Wrap that shit up, B. Yo, the sign is real simple, B. It says wrap it up. Wrap that shit up, B.
Well, what you took that's actually from the Chappelle Show, but originally what he's doing is he's mimicking his piece on Half Baked, where he's doing that. I mean, that's
Yep.
That's the character.
Oh my God, it's the same guy.
Yeah.
Wrap it up, B. That's you don't. That's the way he talks.
We just blew Jorge's mind.
I know.
You did.
Good job.
You're cool. You're cool. You're cool. You suck.
Fuck it, I'm out. And throws a chicken patty and smacks the old lady in the head. My favorite part. Yeah, I've seen the movie way too much, but
I need to talk to Stamps.
Damn it. See, normally I will admit I would love to have a great segue from Half Baked to the New Orleans Saints, Dallas Cowboys. I don't. I apologize for that. But I do want to say the Cowboys are 6-point favorites. It's a 46.5 point implied total. I do not expect that the Saints will replicate what they did last week. Who knew last week that if you stacked the Saints and DFS, you could have been profitable. The problem is most likely you probably would have had Chris Olave in some of those, and then that would have just negated all the benefits to an extent. But before we get into that, there are some impactful players who will be out or who potentially could be, and that's Marshawn Lattimore, Brian Bresee, Talisi Fuaga, all didn't practice on Friday.
Ooh, if Lattimore's out, that's huge.
Absolutely it is. And then you talk about Kalen Saunders and DeMarco Jackson, both out this week, and Jake Ferguson, obviously doubtful, but maybe questionable, but who knows? I think he's actually progressed to where he's more likely to play than he was on Wednesday. But then again, what do I know? I have no clue there. But you're right. Marshawn Lattimore, huge. Here's the thing. I think many people might hear you say that and think immediately you're going to go to CD Lamb. But I think maybe the more impactful person could be Brandon Cooks, right?
Oh, I love Brandon Cooks this week. I love both the wide receivers matchups this week, especially now that because they're going to have to roll coverage to CD Lamb at some point, right? Which is just going to free up Cooks. We saw Cooks have a great game last week. We saw him, once Dak started getting hot towards the end of last season, Cooks becoming more involved with this passing game. He is the most disrespected wide receiver too, or was heading into this season, last year. So yeah,
I don't disagree with that. I was worried. I was like, maybe, but there's no one else to step up. Jalen Tolbert's not somebody that I'm worried about stepping in. I don't know if Dallas gets ahead that they're gonna what the Zeke Rico Dowdle scenario may break out. I'll ask you guys that question. I mean, in the must start scenario, CeeDee Lamb, Alvin Kamara, I'm putting Brandon Cooks into it now, especially with potentially not Marshawn Lattimore. And if they don't have Ferguson, even more so with Brandon Cooks. But Dak, with or without Marshawn Lattimore, to me, is a conversation that with Lattimore, Dak was right on the edge of my QB1 rankings. Like, I'm comfortable with him, but without Lattimore, I think I'm going to move him up a few spots, and I feel more comfortable. Is that kind of the way you're leaning, Keith?
For sure. Like, I mean, I've really faded the Cowboys, really this game in general. Like, Kamara has been one of the guys for DFS that I have been circling just because of his, pass catching prowess. I still think he's very reasonably priced for cash games and on DraftKings this week. But if Lattimore's out, Cooks will be in a lot of my DFS lineups because Lamb is just so expensive. You almost have to know he's going to go off in order to play him. To where Cooks is, I think, in like the low 5,000 range. And man, if he's on their number 3 corner and he cooks versus man, like his win rate, his target rate, all that stuff goes up considerably. They run predominantly man anyway. I think Cooks becomes a smash play, and obviously that's going to up Dak's value as well. And also the Saints are a good run defense, so I don't know if the Cowboys with what we saw last week, they're going to probably have to throw.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And looks like as of late last night, the rap sheet is saying that they are cautious with Marshawn Lattimore, and he's like absolute true game time decision. So we won't know until then, but we'll know a little bit in advance, and maybe, just maybe, we will have a little DFS build that we will do later on this show, and how heavy we'll have Brandon Cooks in there. But I think that from an IDP standpoint, maybe let's jump right into that, Jorge. Alante Taylor last week, crazy game. Obviously it was because he was he sacked Bryce Young 3 times. That's not going to happen in this scenario, I don't believe. But we got this hyper-targeted CeeDee Lamb in this matchup, most likely to an extent. We'll say 25% target. Does Alante Taylor in cornerback exclusive leagues, does he even take that potential chance in a non-quarterback, exception leagues, where as a defensive back, you may feel Alante Taylor is a sneaky play?
I mean, you're definitely counting on the pass deflections, the pass breakups for you to get your fantasy points there and a potential interception. I don't know. I don't know if I could say in a DB specific DB only league to start him. I'm kind of bullish on safeties when I'm thinking about players in DB only, but in terms of quarterback specifically, I don't know whether or not CD is going to get hyper targeted. I think the involvement of Brandon Cooks, you look at the target share percentage last week, CD 28%, but Brandon Cooks had 21.9%. So I don't know whether or not it's just going to be funneling all CD Lamb. I think, even without Lattimore, I think this Cowboys offense has realized we have weapons, spread the ball to them. So I think that kind of hurts, the pass breakup numbers there for Alante Taylor just a little bit.
There you go. All right. What other IDP options are you looking at?
I'm always going to go with my guy, Demario Davis, and I'll stay true to Carl Granderson, even though he does have a tough matchup this week. I will say somebody who just came out of nowhere. We all know Micah Parsons for the Cowboys, but DeMarcus Lawrence, the corpse of DeMarcus Lawrence. I don't know if he, do you remember? This is, folks. This is going to take a minute. Do you remember in the movie Logan, Wolverine had like the special concoction, and I'm not equating this to steroids, but like where he like injected it and like he became like Superman all over again? I guess that kind of sounds really like steroids. But the point is, where I'm going with this is, DeMarcus Lawrence had some special Gatorade because he looked fantastic last week. 5 tackles, 2 sacks. Fantasy Pros.
Sign is real simple, B. It says wrap it up.
And we're on to the next game, which is
DeMarion Overshawn.
There you go. DeMario Overshawn time is true.
Keith, you just wait till it's your turn.
Trust me. That I told you I don't like that at all because that's going to be made for me.
We got a question here really quickly. Baker
Exactly.
versus Joe Burrow.
Oh, I got a lot on this. It's Baker by a mile.
I
The
agree.
Detroit Lions, over their last 7 games, are allowing 350 yards per game through the air. Baker Mayfield in this building in the division round, 350, 3 touchdowns. And I think Detroit's obviously going to score points. It's going to turn into a shootout. I don't trust that Bengals offense until I see more, till we get Higgins back. But Baker, to me, is one of the best QB plays across the board this week, and he's in a majority of my cash lineups for DFS.
Couldn't ask for a better time to talk about Baker Mayfield, because we go to Detroit in what I think is going to be one of the better games of the weekend as far as fantasy implications, exciting offense, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Detroit. Detroit 7.5-point favorites, a 51-point total. Some of these point totals move, by the way, from when I put them in. So, don't hold me over the coals.
That one has gone up 3 points since we're open. So people are pounding the over, which always makes me leery.
Yeah, and that's fair. Especially, well, here's some news that could impact a lot in this game, both offense and defensive. Antoine Winfield and Kalijah Kancey both are out for Tampa Bay.
Hello.
That's huge for both passing and the rushing game. Tyke Smith, who was the slot corner there, is out. Marcus Davenport, man, this one hurts, is doubtful. Sucks because he looked good last week. And the biggest news that I saw with the limited practice, and I don't think he's at risk of not playing per se, but Penei Sewell got limited on Friday, and maybe I should look further into it instead of just throwing up like data that I see without actually knowing why. I mean, I like to believe that it's not anything serious, but he returned to Lions practice on Friday. They're not sure yet if the All-Pro will be available on Sunday. It's healing. We're trying to be smart about it, is a quote from Dan Campbell about Penei Sewell's ankle. So we shall see. Jorge, you and I both know that any matchups IDP-wise against Penei Sewell is a no-no, which is kind of what I was leading in. We're going to start with some IDP here. Yaya Diaby versus Penei Sewell. Yaya was always a no-no. But let's say Sewell doesn't play. You like Yaya Diaby. I do too. Are you thinking maybe that could be a sneaky sack or bust type move?
Sack or bust, yeah, because he was never really a huge, for a defensive end, high volume tackler. So you are kind of hoping on the sack here. I still think that the offensive line has enough good pieces to shift whatever they need to shift to get proper protection there. On Jared Goff. So I am out on Yaya Diaby. So he is, as you have put it, Yaya a no-no this week.
Yaya's a no-no. But Levante David is a yes. What about KJ Brett?
No, thanks. Give me Levante David. Just the guy, all he does is just tackle. And now you're getting what should be a good offensive performance from the running game, from both Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So we saw what Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. were able to do running the ball against Tampa Bay last week. I think this 1-2 punch for Detroit is going to feed right into the Levante David.
Gotcha. Let's finish out the IDP side of things, who's the rest of your plays this week in this matchup?
Yeah, so for me, it's going to be obviously you're playing Aiden Hutchinson. The one who's really a disappointment for the Detroit Lions is Jack Campbell. It's supposed to be the green dot wearer, aka the person who's calling the plays all day on the field. Just had a really unproductive game last week, whereas old reliable Alex Anzalone doing his thing. Yes, all he does is just get tackles, which that feels gross to say just because he's highly inefficient at doing anything else. But who cares because you're getting your fantasy points that way. And then, those are the only ones that really jump out to me. Anybody that you are thinking about?
Nothing special necessarily. I think you everybody there. Prior to the injury, I really didn't mind the Marcus Davenport, and just with game that's going to be with this many dropbacks, I expected some pass rusher to have success, but no, I'm looking at the offensive side of the ball, and I got to tell you, there's a ton of pieces. Keith, you already said Baker in a smash over Joe Burrow, which says how high you are on him.
Mm-hmm.
How high are we on the idea that Rachaad White after this week will hyperextend his neck looking over his shoulder at Bucky Irving?
Kevin Tompkins turned me into a Bucky Irving truther probably around June or July.
He's
and
persuasive.
So now I am on the right side of this argument, which is always good, that I think Bucky Irving is going to supplant him. Like, he's a better runner, and I think he's a better pass catcher than Rachaad White. I think they're going to continue to utilize both. Which makes sense. I mean, if we look, most good offenses have two running backs now that they use, but I think eventually it's going to be Bucky Irvin 60% to 40. But I do want to remind people, the Lions run defense is fantastic. It always is. Like, the Lions run defense the last 2 seasons, like, it's very difficult to run the ball on them, but boy, can you throw on them. So, like, Evans, Godwin, like, if you want to play McMillan in DFS, he's 3,300. Like, there's a lot of places in the passing game to attack them. I would not expect much from their running backs unless they're catching passes this week in this, I think, what should be a shootout.
Should be. And one of the interesting parts that I kind of noticed, so I was over on Underdog. I was doing their champions build set, and I noticed that one of them was Rachaad White's over receiving yards total was 23 or 24 and a half, which seemed extremely low. So, of course, I hit the over. But it makes me wonder, it's like, I know, they're not like privy to the inside like Vegas may be to knowing team concepts, et cetera. But that number seemed so low, it makes me wonder that maybe it's going to be a little more Bucky Irving. And if you like the Underdog champions game and you want to play, not only throughout the show today, we will give you some of those Underdog props, if you will, but Jorge will also give you a promo code for Underdog, which will give you, Jorge?
You get a match now for using the promo code FRAMES for up to $1,000 over at Underdog. It used to be just $100, but now they give you a match up to $1,000. So, yeah, use the promo code FRAMES, sign up, and if you feel really confident, drop that cash and win that money.
Well, Jorge, I'm going to keep you on the clock here. Number one, Randy wants to know, do you like Nick Bosa or Josh Hines-Allen more today and rest of season?
Man, that is a great question. And this is going to be kind of a quote unquote controversial.
Ooh.
I like both Hines-Allen today versus Cleveland versus Bosa and the Minnesota Vikings tackles. And to be honest with you, when I'm looking at their schedules going forward, the teams that Bosa will be playing against, those are teams that have either established offensive line tackles or they are facing teams that upgraded their offensive line, the offensive line positions over the course of the offseason. So I'm liking Hines-Allen. I never thought I'd say this. I think I like Hines-Allen both today and rest of the season.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, there's without Jedrick Wills for Cleveland, It sounds like Jack Conklin did return to practice. I think he's going to play, which does pose a little bit more of a a threat than some backup, even more so, kind of like they have over on the right hand side with DeJuan Jones. And I still like this Josh Allen matchup. I'll probably lean Bosa rest of the season, just because I think the likelihood that San Francisco has a lead and game script means he's going to be able to have more, drop back opportunities. But it's closer for sure. And first of all, I don't know if you saw this. Good morning to you, you beautiful person, Mr. Scampers. We have not spoken about AJ Brown yet. Probably could have led the show with that. We probably could have talked for 3 hours on the AJ Brown implications and what you should do. And the friends over at Sleeper will have the late lock position for you. But other than using them, if you're in your home league and doing it on, say, Yahoo, etc., you have to make that decision of what are you going to do. We can talk about AJ Brown when that game comes up, of course, but full point PPR. What would you rather do? One of those situations, take a stab at, say, Ray McLeod, Tyler Algier, or lock and load. Let's assume that there's nobody else really available in that game where you can kind of pivot and wait. Which would there be anybody in that game that you like from the Eagle side? Like Jahan Dotson's not a name that you're super excited about, or is that a case if he's available?
I mean, they obviously traded for him for a reason, and if Brown is out, to be honest, like I would rather take a shot at him than Ray McLeod. I don't think that's going to be a repeat deal for the Falcons. I could be wrong, and maybe he ends up being a focal part of this offense. But I thought we got rid of Arthur Smith, and the part of it was we were going to get our best players on the field of the football. So I would hope to see Darnell Mooney, Drake London, because you got to remember London was covered by one of the best corners in the NFL. So that was one of those receivers in the group that sky's not falling. They had a very tough matchup with a corner that shadowed them. I expect London to get peppered with balls this week versus Philly.
There you go. And we'll talk more extensively about that matchup towards the end I say at the end of the show because they're the last game that we'll discuss. Let's discuss another flex option with some people that I know were because of the injuries. We got Kyle Pitts. Demarcus Robinson for me is one that's very, very intriguing. And why is my brain slipping? Which
Kyle Pitts, Gus Edwards. I'm assuming.
Gus Edwards. Yeah, oh Lord. I was like thinking wide receiver for some reason. I was like, the hell's which Edwards is it? Yeah, Gus makes much more sense. Sorry, Mike, for dropping the ball on that one. Good Lord. What do you guys think? Non-PPR. Let's see. Keith, see how good I am at paying attention to that? For anybody listening that doesn't know, last year I answered a question that was non-PPR. It was a standard league, and I started talking about how many catches like a dumbass. And Keith called me out like he should, and I respect him much more for that. So, all right, Jorge, you start off. Kyle Pitts, Gus Edwards, Demarcus Robinson, non-PPR.
Ironically, I think I'm going to go with my namesake here. I'm going to go with Gus Edwards. Demarcus Robinson, I like him being the number 2 option, I believe, for this Rams team. But was it Tyler Johnson who actually came up last week and had a few good plays there? More of the short to intermediate route runner there for the Los Angeles Rams. I think he can get some work today. Kyle Pitts doesn't actually have a great matchup versus Philadelphia. Philadelphia only last week allowing 4.7 points to the tight end position. So give me the guy who's going to be in scoring position in a non-PPR. Give me Gus Edwards.
Keith, you have a different opinion?
Of course. Give me Kyle Pitts. He's going to get peppered with targets. And I know Philly didn't give up that many points to tight ends last week, but Kyle Pitts is not a tight end. He's a wide receiver / tight end who the Falcons proved even in a game that it was rough offensively. I think he still saw 6 targets. He caught several balls, had a touchdown. I just think that, again, I think things are going to be better for Atlanta this week. Cousins was shaking off some rust. But regardless, the volume is what I'm looking for. And yes, I think Jorge is right that, Edwards very likely to score, a goal line touchdown. But if he doesn't, do you want to have Gus Edwards in your lineup? Because we saw a stat line last week when he doesn't score.
Yeah, that's the tricky one. I gotta say, I think I lean Gus because I do believe he gets involved. If I had to bet on him scoring a touchdown, or the likelihood that Kyle Pitts repeats a touchdown on 3 targets, I think that I like the better chance of Gus than that. And I know you said he's going to get peppered targets, and I think he will. I think that's going to be an evolution of the game. Ray McLeod's not going to have 7. It's going to be split up more. But it was that touchdown was a saving grace that I just like the chances. It's close, though. It's close. So either way. But yeah, Scampers, the Panthers do absolutely suck. And I hate when you don't have to throw we. You could say they at this point. You can disassociate. And
No, you can't. That's what I love about Mr. Scampers. Trust me, I'm a Falcons fan. If we could just let it go, I would have let it go years ago. Okay.
I know. I'm just trying to give hope. I just want to let them know that we're here. We're a support group. We support each other. And any PPR, I'd go D-Rob. I would as well. Let's continue on with this Tampa Bay Detroit matchup because it is a fun one. We talked about Rachaad White. The Jorge, the players were starting David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra, Chris Godwin, Laporta. You're not worried about Amon-Ra after last week, correct?
No.
Okay.
This is the Amon-Ra game. He sees almost a 35% target share last season when Goff was blitzed. Guess what? The Bucs blitzed at like a 53% rate last week. The sky is not falling for St. Brown. This is a great matchup for him. And I expect him to have a real big bounce back game. And in DFS, I actually think for DraftKings, he's going to be low on because he's 8,100. People are going to see that first next to Tampa Bay's defense, even though it's a 1-week sample size. So I don't even really know why they list them there. And just don't forget, Tampa played a rookie QB. They're not playing this Detroit team with Jared Goff and an offense that's been a juggernaut. So I actually think St. Brown's a very good play in DraftKings and DFS this week because people are going to be down on them because of the performance last week. And again, Tampa is going to have like that number 1 ranking next to them for even though it's a 1-game sample size.
Well, last but not least on that offense in Detroit is an individual who we were monitoring, and Schefter last night tweeted out that Jameson is good to go today. It is there's a lot of banners and balloons around the Markham household today for Jameson Williams being in the lineup. It is it's a glorious day to be a Jameson Williams fan. It could be could be quick. Candles get blown out. It could be an Amon-Ra day, and all of a sudden the hater doors and the trolls will come a knocking, and I don't see it. I think his involvement in that offense was fantastic. Here's a trick. I turned this down before the CMC IR news. I don't need a running back necessarily. I mean, I do because I have CMC, but the person offered me Jordan Mason for Jameson Williams right after like the Jameson Williams week. I said no, which I kind of look back and if the person's not listening, I might go back and reassess now with 4 extra weeks because Jordan Mason's pretty nasty, but I need the wide receiver. So clearly you guys all know I'm aboard with Jameson Williams. We don't need to talk about him anymore. I don't want to wish anything into fruition, but wide receiver 1. Indianapolis minus 2.5 at Green Bay, 40.5 point total. Julian Blackmon is out this game. Here's a big one. DeForest Buckner.
It's going to be, oh God,
Yep. Jorge, the Uggs don't stop at Julian Blackmon. DeForest Buckner was a DNP 3 times this week.
Yeah.
So the Indianapolis defense has taken a significant hit from both IDP and not really stopping Green Bay. Let's be honest. Maybe the run game will get it ramped up a little bit more so with Josh Jacobs, but Jordan Love still technically, I guess, doubtful, not ruled out yet, but
what are they doing? How do teams get away with this? The CMC deal, like, how is that okay? Like,
I don't know. That's just, it is what it is. Manipulation of
the rules, I guess. It just, to me, it seems like it's just flat out lying, but
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Playing with air quotes is what they.
Exactly. So the must starts for us, I believe. If any of my must starts, you guys either one disagree, please chime in. But Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, I think Josh Jacobs is a must start. And when I use must start, top 24, the running back position, top 12, top 36. If you're in a 3 wide receiver league, you get the gist of this. But the Indianapolis wide receivers are a tricky bunch. Michael Pittman, 31 yards, 40% target rate.
Yeah, he must start for sure.
Okay. So there's one. Alec Pierce. Mm-hmm. Alec Pierce in a matchup against Green Bay that we don't expect. I mean, 40.5 is not great. We know that. I don't think there's going to be more than 1 or 2 Colts receivers that are sustainable. Jorge, I know you like, Adonai Mitchell.
I do.
I do as well. Can Anthony Richardson support 2 wide receivers this week to both be, top 30, we'll say?
Yes, but I don't know whether or not it's Pittman and Adonai Mitchell. There's a chance that Josh Downs does play this game. And if you look back to some of the target volume when Richardson was playing during his rookie year, albeit short sample size, he was targeting Josh Downs pretty frequently. So if Josh Downs is, 100%, come game time, I can kind of see Pittman and Josh Downs being the 2 that he kind of hyper focuses in on. And, Adonai Mitchell maybe gets that one deep pass and maybe they connect for a touchdown. And sure, but target volume wise, I think you're looking more Downs than Pittman.
There you go. That's
if Josh Downs ends up playing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that's still, we'll monitor as time goes on. I think he's one of those.
There was a report just now that just came across the screen where Marshawn Lloyd for the Packers rookie will make his season debut today.
God.
What a coincidence. No DeForest Buckner, banged up defensive line. Okay. Let's start the rookie. I love it.
No, I don't.
I wanted Emmanuel Wilson. Like he was going to be somebody I was going to use in MME as well as a few of my 16-team league, potentially as a starting running back, because I just think they're going to try to pound the rock. I think Reed's going to get a good bit of rushing attempts. Think of, Deebo Samuel with San Francisco, same type deal. But I really think for Indy's offense, outside of Pittman, I don't trust any of the pass catchers. I think that Steichen learned his lesson last year. If they get a lead in this game, we will not see Richardson running the ball. We won't see Richardson throwing the ball. We're going to see Jonathan Taylor and Trey Sermon running that rock. So if the game script goes that way, I see a heavy Jonathan Taylor, Trey Sermon game.
Yeah, I've moved Jonathan Taylor to my RB2 spot.
Yeah,
so there you go. He's no Najee Harris, but he is he's good for runner up.
That's a great matchup. I'm sorry, Najee has a fantastic matchup this week.
No, it's ranking. It's just funny the way that Nate said it. I mean, hey, both of you guys have trophies for top 10 rankings, so I'm not going to judge either one of y'all. But I understand both of Nate's sarcastic comment and why you have Najee Harris there. So potato.
You do have to go big.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I will say, jokingly about the fantasy receipts being in the comments early, if I had Najee at 2 and I was asked on a show or I went on and, someone said, hey, all right, Jonathan Taylor, well, not in this case because he's your 1, but say you have to start 1, Saquon or Najee, I would have a really hard time actually starting Najee over Saquon if that's the only option I had. You know what I mean? Like one of those type scenarios, even though Atlanta's really good against the run. There was part of me that wanted to put Saquon as a fade just for, clicks because I like Atlanta's run D, but I don't want to ever do anything for clicks. I'm not clickbaity. Thirst traps, as they call them, by the way, in case you were wondering.
Okay.
Yep, that's what it's called. You guys get hit. Get with me.
So I have prior to the Marshawn Lloyd news, I had Josh Jacobs as my RB17 given the matchup, and now with potentially no DeForest Buckner, I could see him moving up a couple spots. Would it be crazy to maybe keep him where he is just because of Marshawn Lloyd, or is it rookie running back? Let's see what he does first before we start moving Josh Jacobs down or potentially up.
We know one thing, and that is Matt LaFleur would
Mr.
prefer to
Scandrick?
start
Oh,
multiple. Would prefer to start, have a rotation. So to think it happens in week 2 with Lloyd coming up is a pretty. I mean, there's a little bit of smoke, meaning there could be some fire that we won't know until after the game. And it wouldn't shock me if Green Bay gets down by 17 and and they don't want to give the ball to Jacobs anymore. Why ruin? Why give him this heavy workload without Jordan Love when your expectations is still to maybe point. If you lose 3 of these 4 games, you still want a healthier Josh Jacobs, which is not a bad thing. So
but on the other side, right, if this game stays close, you could see Jacobs having a monster. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I have him at RB 13.
Yeah.
I think that's just outside. I'll tease that and see what we do there. But we touched on the Green Bay wide receivers.
Talked about first Richardson start outdoors of his career. First game not in the dome, and only his second road game ever. Just an FYI. We talked about it on the DFS.
That's a really interesting point for sure. I mean, we forget about some of that, the impact that those things have. And I mean, his first road game being at Lambeau. I mean,
the other one was Houston week 2, and that was before the Texans. I mean, like, I've been to Houston games, not exactly a tough environment to play in. This was before CJ Stroud took off. So literally played the one game at Houston last year, and then this is his first road game outdoor at Lambeau. Just something to think about, because I know everybody's smashing Richardson to have a big game. It's a tough place to play.
Okay. Get your Epicap out. Emmanuel Wilson, Tyler Algier, Ray McLeod. Sit one.
Just
sit one. You were pulling that from the Family Guy, first of all, right? That was your Family Guy reference you were just pulling out there with your Epicac?
Well, I mean, it's notoriously known for making people throw up.
Right, but
in my head, do I picture that? Kind of. There's a piece of it that, 100%. Like, if you're reading my mind there, you always know how simplistic this thing up here is. And yes, if there's not a Family Guy reference or a stupid movie or something not childish, but mundane, simpleton, simple Jack. That's it.
My answer, I think, would be Ray. And I know that sounds insane, but looking back, I mean, Green Bay did have 21 carries for 163 yards last, week versus Philly. I could end up seeing the Falcons, basically trying to run Bijan Algier with the fact that look how rough the passing game looked, look how tough it was for Cousin to move, and then that will set up the play action and hopefully allow, those big play machines of London, Pitts, et cetera, to kind of get going. So I just don't trust Ray, and I'm a Falcons fan. I hope he has a great season. I think that was really a 1 week deal last week.
You know what? For me, it's kind of hard because I look at Michael Wilson and I look at his target share last week. I mean, he was 4th on the team with 6.5, 4th on the team in air yards.
I think he means Emmanuel Wilson.
Emmanuel Wilson.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Michael Wilson would be a smash for me, at least in this, which of this question. Let's not get too carried away with Michael Wilson and Dortch and Marvin Harrison Jr. But yeah, I'm going to go Ray too. Jorge, do you agree, or are you?
Ray, yeah.
Okay. You can pick Michael Wilson. He's not on his team, but I mean, it's you don't want A, B, or C. You're going to choose dog at the bottom and go with your own. Who are some dogs on that defensive side of the ball, Jorge?
Sorry. So EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin both had great days last week in the double-digit tackling department here for Fantasy Pros scoring.
May I interject with a stat on EJ Speed that I love that reiterates what you said last week about his evolution as Zaire Franklin slid down. To be honest, I actually have EJ Speed over Zaire Franklin this week, but EJ Speed has recorded 10 tackles in week 1. He did, which has increased his streak to 5 straight games dating back to last year with 10 plus tackles. and 8+ solo tackles. Not that's not 18, but 10. 8 of the 10 tackles plus have been solo in every game. It's incredible what he's done, and you and I both have agreed that weak side backer role in Indy, granted different, personnel and different coaching staff, etc., but it's always been productive there, and we're seeing it again.
To your point, Kwity Paye obviously is a good defensive lineman. I actually like Leatu Latu, more so in this matchup, just because he is going to get a book of the playing time. He's such a great edge rusher, and I know that's hard for you to say. Like, he's such a great edge rusher, even though it's a second game in the pros, folks. I don't think you realize how good he was in college, and it is. It takes sometimes a defensive lineman a couple of years to get acclimated. I guarantee you this is not going to be the case with Leatu Latu. His breakout is coming. This guy is fantastic. He's going to get that opportunity this week. So I love this play here for Leatu Latu, sneaky play there. And Nick Cross, your guy, who a couple of years ago you were driving from your home to the Expo, and I think you stopped at Colts minicamp and you were checking out Nick Cross. Well, he had a great game last week, and so whether it's him, whether it's old reliable Kenny Moore, there's the slot corner there. I like these players. I was telling JT I'd shoot the gap. This Colts team has a lot of good IDP players, and if you're able to get some of these guys on your roster, I would highly recommend you do it. Nick, what's your Nate? What's your thoughts on Javon Bullard there, the rookie there?
Oh, you served it up on a platter. I love Javon Bullard. I wanted, from a real football standpoint, I was really hoping the Chiefs were going to draft Bullard. They end up, getting Jaden Hicks, which I'm fine with too for a going forward season or going forward scenario. But I will say this: I think Javon Bullard has the upside to be in that DB2 conversation by the end of the season, maybe by the end of week 6. Xavier McKinney, their play style, I can see him playing deeper more than what he did in week 1. It wouldn't shock me at all. Javon Bullard, even despite that rotation that they were doing as far as box snaps and then playing deep, had 11 tackles. He's a dog, man. He hits hard. He's not afraid to get dirty into any play. This week matchup alone, we talked earlier, absolute Jonathan Taylor smash. I wouldn't be shocked to see near double-digit tackles again for Javon Bullard. And then at this point, what we'll see is his name being real high on the list of waiver wire priorities. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Javon Bullard. Hopefully it comes to fruition. And if that's the case, any IDP listeners out there, if you have an open spot and he's available, pick him up before the name continues to go. Keith missed. I know he would love us talking about Javon Bullard because, of course,
go Dogs,
sir. There we go.
He's a baller too, man. For real, a really good football player.
So we had teased a little earlier about maybe building a DraftKings lineup live with the viewers, getting inputs with Keith. Jorge, I'm going to ask you, while we discuss this next matchup, if you would have an opportunity to be able to go to your DraftKings page, have it where it's viewable, where we can do it together, because I don't have it prepared, and I figure Keith and I can ramble about this Cleveland-Jacksonville game for the next 2 or 3 minutes, or with Keith, 12 or 13 minutes, and we'll see what Keith, I'm just giving you trouble because I love
Tough,
you.
but fair.
But you bring valuable work. You're not just it and on it all the way through. I enjoy listening. Jorge, what were you getting ready to say?
I just want to give a shout out to the over 1,000 people watching across social media platforms, especially on X right now. Thank you very much. This is thinking back 5 years ago where we started to where we're at now. Thank you very much. If you wouldn't mind opening up a new tab, though, heading over to our YouTube channel, hitting that subscribe button and notification bell when Fantasy and Frames drops awesome fantasy, not only fantasy football content, but fantasy hockey content, fantasy football, college, pro, you name it. We'd really appreciate that support there. But again, thank you very much for tuning in, and I will get that DraftKings thing going pretty soon, Nate.
Yeah. And I will even make a declaration with Jorge's money is that if we enter into a we're going to do a let's do an MME. We'll do a tournament entry. And if we win big to any person that is a subscriber, we will split the winnings within what let's see. We'll randomly draw a person's name and send them a nice gift as a result.
Jorge, there's a $3 100,000 for first place contest. That would be a perfect one to do if you're looking for an MME contest.
There you go. All right, let's jump into the Cleveland-Jacksonville game. Jacksonville's 3-point home favorite, 46.5 total. David Njoku's out. Jedrick Wills, I mentioned, is out. Darnell Savage, safety for Jacksonville's out. Single quarterback leagues, I'm out on both. Keith, agree? You're not thinking about T-Law, correct?
Correct. Cleveland is, I mean, now I will say they're a different defense on the road than they are at home, but it's still a good defense. I think you can find better QB options in a QB1 league.
Yep. We talked earlier about Travis Etienne may have some tough sledding against this Cleveland team. We don't know the involvement of Tank Bigsby. I think we still consider him a flex at worst case scenario, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Jerome Ford, I think there's not that explosive upside versus Jacksonville. He's a plotter, if you will. We saw last week, fourth quarter, he had, I think it was nearly 30 yards of his total and a touchdown, all in garbage time. But not to say that can't happen again this week. So that being said, the upside for Jerome Ford is no higher than RB2.
Yeah,
fair?
I think that's fair. PPR, I like him more than I do in standard leagues. He really scares me. PPR, I think that he's a solid play this week.
There you go. And then this next one is one that, looking into it, again, small sample size from week one. It is what it is. But Amari Cooper, we know he's attached to the arm of Deshaun Watson, which is never a great thing. But last week, Keith, here's your trivia. You can use this. There were 4 wide receivers who had a 20% target rate, but a less than 50% catchable target rate.
Yikes.
Can you guess those 4 people? Now you have the show sheet, so I'm sure you can guess it, but I don't know if you looked at it or not.
I don't look at it. Come on, man. Who looks at the show sheet?
Fair enough.
Amari Cooper for sure.
Boom.
Is one of them. Let's think. Really bad offensive performances last week, and then got targeted a lot.
I'll give you a
was Devontae Adams one?
He was not one, but if
Okay.
we've talked about 2 of the other receivers already on the teams. Indianapolis and Tennessee were 2 of the teams we talked about.
Well, Pittman,
Really?
obviously.
No, shockingly, it's not. Go to the other side.
Hopkins, right?
Adonai Mitchell.
Wow.
But the
I thought
Tennessee
how many
game.
targets did he see?
Well, it's not hard to get to 20% whenever you throw the ball.
Oh, you're right. You're right. That's fair.
That's
Yeah.
why it's a skewed stat just a little bit. But yeah.
That's fair.
So Calvin Ridley with the Titans, and then the 4th person on that list, Cortland Sutton. So Cortland Sutton, Calvin Ridley, A.D. Mitchell, and Amari Cooper. Of those 3, really, Amari Cooper, Cortland Sutton, Calvin Ridley, 20% target rate, I think, can happen every week. Less than 50% catchable target rate, I think,
Could
can happen every week.
Yeah.
But of all of them, Amari Cooper is the one that I think in this particular matchup can really excel from that. Is that a fair correlation to make you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's by far their best wide receiver. I know Judy got the touchdown last week, but Cooper is one of those guys that's just underrated year after year. He reminds me a lot of, like, say, the James Connors and even to a bigger extent, Mike Evans, where people just keep sleeping on them. And if you look, they just keep having 1,000-yard, seasons, catch 80, 90 balls. So I also think that the Browns are going to make a move. It seems like they are trying to set up to void the Deshaun Watson contract. And they paid their backup a decent amount to where we could end up seeing, this could be Deshaun Watson's last start if things go really bad this week.
I want to see Jameis.
Me too.
I think that's probably benefits Cooper and Jerry Jeudy considerably. Jerry Jeudy had, I think he and I have, so in a 14-team league in Kings Classic, he is one of my flex guys. I don't mind it because last week, 22% win rate in matchups. He can get open. He's not great, but I don't think I think you could definitely do much worse. Christian Kirk on the other side of the ball does have a nice matchup in the slot against Greg Newsome. I know you're big on Brian Thomas Jr., but if looking between the two, Christian Kirk against Greg Newsome or, Cleveland's outside corners against Brian Thomas Jr., Keith, which way are you going to lean, bud?
I do like Kirk, especially if you're looking now. Again, this is where the difference in DFS and like standard fantasy. If you're looking in like a fantasy league, I like Kirk a lot more. Like I'm actually starting Kirk over Ayuk this week in a league because typically with Ayuk, if it's a man defense, that's where he thrives. If it's zone, that's where Debo thrives. The Vikings blitz a lot. So they're going to run a lot of zone. That means Ayuk, not the best play. Kirk, yep. I think, is going to have a great game because the Browns get pressure. Typically in games that, there's pressure, that means a lot more passes to Kirk and Ingram, which is what I expect to see this week. Thomas Jr. has the athletic ability, like for DFS, that I think he's a value. You could have a big play on any game. But like if you're looking, go ahead. Yeah.
Say Evan Ingram.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, Ingram and Kirk to me they had very disappointing week ones. But I think you're going to see this week both of them heavily targeted in the passing game because they're going to have to get rid of the ball quickly. And also it's going to be difficult to run on that Browns defense, meaning that I think the Jaguars are going to have to throw to score points.
There you go. All right. IDP side, Jorge, we saw JOK with 100% of the snaps. Obviously, we're thrilled there. Grant Delpit, 90% of the snaps in the box or in the slot. Love that matchup. Jacksonville side, Trayvon Walker continues to improve. Aluakon's there, Josh Allen, anybody that besides those that really stands out that you would start?
No, those are the must starts, I believe, for me. Obviously Myles Garrett, right?
Yeah. Well, he popped up on the injury report. I don't think he's gonna. Yeah, popped up on Thursday. I don't think he's gonna be in like risk of missing the game per se, but it is something to monitor. If that happens, of course, that changes a little bit of the pressure, but. I'm not worried. We'll continue on that road. Let's jump into. You want to do the
shout out to an edge rusher though that we haven't talked about just because the game was on Thursday. Real quick, I'll be brief with it. Edge rushers, they have to really get off when they're coming off the line of scrimmage, get some push on their feet. Shout out to Jalen Phillips coming off of an Achilles injury last week, having a sack. Just a testament to just how freakishly awesome this guy is from an athletic standpoint. Just wanted to give a shout out to Jalen Phillips there. And for those who have him available on your waiver wire for some reason, grab him now.
Yeah, he shouldn't be available on any waiver wire, but I can understand entering the season, people were concerned and going from there. I will say this week, he actually did play less snaps this week than he did last week, but still to be able to come back and have any play. I mean, there was thoughts that he could be PUP'd at some point too. So let's do this. Let's run through just two more of these games real fast. We'll do the DK so that we can touch on every game. Let's go to San Francisco at Minnesota. San Francisco is a 5-point favorite, 46.5. Brian Flores defense, a CMC less offense, which doesn't necessarily mean much anymore, but Hufanga is out for San Francisco, and then Jordan Addison from Minnesota. Let's play a Would You Rather game, Jordan Mason edition. Let's start with you, Jorge.
Okay.
Jordan Mason or Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry.
Jordan Mason or Josh Jacobs?
Now this should be a smash, Josh Jacobs, but I am if Josh Jacobs were the Josh Jacobs from 2 years ago, who's super hyper efficient, not the Josh Jacobs from last year or the one we saw in week 1. So I would go Jordan Mason in this one.
All right, Keith, I'm switching to you. Jordan Mason or Saquon Barkley?
Barkley slightly.
Jordan Mason or Jahmyr Gibbs?
I would go Mason.
There we go. That concludes the show of Would You Rather, the grossest game on the internet right now, because Jordan Mason, I love watching on Twitter the amount of people that, said drafting the handcuff is a recipe to lose your season. And I get it. In some regards, that is true. Banking your entire bench on your own backups is not necessarily a great.
But if you spend the capital on somebody like CMC or even Kyron Williams, like I was a big Kyron Williams believer, but if you're going to spend the capital on Kyron, you got to have his handcuff. Like to me, you believe in that offense, you need to double down on it. And it's the same deal with CMC and Mason. It's like if you believed in CMC, which obviously you should also then believe in the backup who everything we heard was Mason not only was going to be the backup, but he's the first like legit guy that they have back there. So Kevin Tompkins, not that gross. Y'all didn't mention Alan Lazard. I do like Lazard this week on DraftKings.
Gross. We're not talking about Lazard right now. That we
question.
I get you. Fat Randy wants to know Amari Cooper. Sorry, Jorge, you were.
I was going to say not Fat Randy. Come on, Randy. You're svelte, Randy. That's what we're going to say.
Svelte Randy.
Maybe it's like PHAT Randy is what he means, but
yeah,
he spelled
FAT. So
pretty hot.
Sorry.
Exactly. I'm gonna lean Cooper just because what we were talking earlier. I love Brian Robinson in this matchup. I mean, I like Brian Robinson all year. I think that Brian Robinson, as I've said a couple different times, there was plenty of meat on that bone, as they say, because Jaden Daniels decided to vulture, if you will, a couple of them touchdowns that he could have potentially gotten.
But he got most of the red zone, rushes, which was big. Like that's
absolutely.
Why, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm banking on
Daniels killed, right, Jorge? That's my concern. Is if you're giving Daniels carries inside the 5, that's just asking for issues.
Yeah.
So you're going Cooper there, Nate?
I am, yeah.
I trust Brian Robinson to get me yardage, get me receptions, and fall into the end zone more than I do Deshaun Watson being able to distribute the ball to anybody reliably and consistently.
I would rather face the Giants defense than the Jaguars is the way I look at it, because I think the Giants defense proved against Minnesota, and I think O'Connell's a great play caller, don't get me wrong, but for Sam Darnold and that Minnesota offense to go in there and just, over 6 yards per play, I think this Giants defense is going to be one of those that you want to pick on week in and week out in fantasy this year. Sorry, Joe Mets.
I do. But man, I just see a 22. No one in Joe.
The PPR is the big deal. Like I agree with you. I would lean Cooper, and I'm huge on Robinson just because it's PPR.
It's a great matchup. Again, one of those scenarios. Probably maybe a 1.5 separation, one versus the next. The rest of the San Francisco-Minnesota game, that's not Jordan Mason. Aaron Jones did look really good last week. We had a question earlier about Aaron Jones being trade target. Now it's probably one of those scenarios where many people will look at it and go, is this the sell high on Aaron Jones, Jorge? Or is this a trustworthy, we know what he's going to get. They're going to lean a little bit heavier on him. He looked at more explosive. I'm of the belief Tyler Chandler will eventually start to eat in as the season progresses. So are you selling high on Aaron Jones or holding?
So we look at, let's look at the opportunity first. So Aaron Jones got 14 attempts rushing the ball. Ty Chandler second. Yards per carry, Aaron Jones is favorite 6.71. The Ty Chandler is 2.1. I'm not ready to get rid of Aaron Jones yet. I think this is going to be a tough matchup for him going against the. Never mind. I take that back because I think the 49ers can get run on. Also, we saw what Brees Hall was able to do last week. Answer question: no. Keep going. Keep running their hot hand, but there will be a time where that you're going to see Ty Chandler emphasize a little bit more, just because we know how much they are huge fans of his in Minnesota. But no.
So if you believe that, though, you should trade him now, in my opinion. Like, I'm actually somebody that thinks Aaron Jones if he stays healthy, which I know you can't, guarantee that. In a Kevin O'Connell offense, we look at what he did down the stretch in Green Bay last year when he was up. People forget he torched really good defenses in the playoffs, and he had the good debut game. He's just going to me, get a lot of volume because this offense, at best, Addison's out. You got, Jefferson's really the only real target until Hawkinson comes back. I like Aaron Jones because, I mean, what do we know about like these McVay disciples, these Shanahan disciples? Like, they can run the ball, like they can scheme run plays. And from what I've seen out of Aaron Jones the last few games, if he's healthy, he's still an elite back.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only reason, again, why trade high is he has the high abilities because of those things you mentioned. If he was just another garbage running back on a garbage team, the trade return might not be so great. Now, talking about the wide receivers, you mentioned Jordan Addison out. Any other options in Minnesota that outside of Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones that you guys are looking towards? I know Jalen Naylor and like the super deep is 16 teams.
Or are you talking
No, just
like,
regular, just redraft right now.
No, but for DFS, I will mention Powell, who last year in the games that Jefferson missed, he was pretty heavily involved. And I think with Addison out, you're going to see Powell again, especially because San Francisco has a pass rush. Darnold's got to get rid of the ball quicker. If you're just looking for somebody, I think he's like $3,000 this week on DraftKings for MME. It would not shock me if he had, 6 to 12 points, which that's all you need at $3,000 to justify playing him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the consideration. Do you look in the slot, or will Jalen Naylor see the targets needed to be the number 2 there? I don't think any of them are great. We'll move on from that. The option that I love, Jorge was asking me last night a little bit about this with Debo. So if you look at Brian Flores, Brian Flores, 3 safety sets, 2 high safeties, Debo, dig routes, post corners, all the kind of zone breaking type looks that I think, for me, I have Debo higher than number one, I was pretty high on him coming in, but for me to have him, wide receiver 10, I'm contemplating putting him up in closer to the, like I have him and Mike Evans kind of maybe wanting to flip flop a little bit.
He's going to get the ball, which is the difference. Like with Evans, who I think, again, Evans is one of my favorite plays as well this week, but Debo, I mean, what else do you need to know? You saw a little bit of it last week, because the big thing is we're going to get the rushing upside, which is what I really like. He's their number 2 back. Like, that's just the way it is. With CMC out, it's going to be Mason's their number 1 back. Debo is their number 2. And then I think Jorge was, speaking of it a little bit earlier, he absolutely feasts versus teams that blitz and play zone. And this is a Vikings defense that blitzes as much as any team in the NFL.
The most.
And so I expect Debo to have one of those games where it wouldn't surprise me if he had 30, say yards rushing. This is a tough team to run on. The Vikings are a good run defense historically. But I mean, like, he had a stretch last year where they played 2 or 3 straight opponents where they all blitzed at a high rate. They all played a very high zone rate. And I think he had like 24 points or more in all 3. So I think this is definitely the Debo game in San Francisco. He's by far out of their pass catchers the only one that I feel really good about having a great game. I think Ayuk and Kittle is much more risky this week.
When we get to the DK lineup, something tells me maybe he'll be on it. Before we do that lineup, let's hope Kevin Tompkins, I believe the defending champion in his Kings Classic.
Yeah, it's last thing we do is help the champion out some more, but Kev's the guy, so he's my man.
We build each other up, and we want to have multiple of those belts come next year. Kevin and I did talk about having a chalice for Kings Classic champions to drink back at the DoubleTree.
That's amazing.
But considering I didn't win, I shot that thing down because I don't want to look at it. I love you, Kevin, but I don't want to watch you drink out of a chalice and me not get any. So I want both of us to win, and then we will have double chalices. But in order to do so, you have to choose between a banged-up Roman Dunze, a potentially second-in-command Chandler, John Dotson, who his impact is going to come upon an A.J. Brown decision on Monday night, and Josh Reynolds. I don't have anything for Josh Reynolds. Poor Josh Reynolds is probably the answer, and he's the only one that I don't have anything to say like, upside downside. All right, guys, let's just give a name. We don't need to give reasons why or anything. I don't think he cares.
Is it PPR? I'm sorry, I don't know the King.
Yep, King Classic full point PPR, 14-team league, 3 flex spots.
If Odunze is healthy, that would be my answer. If not, Chandler.
Jorge?
It's kind of hard for me to ignore the 8 targets that Josh Reynolds got last week. I may go Reynolds here. If Odunze does not play, that is.
That's my lean is Reynolds a little bit. Reynolds or Chandler, because I'm assuming Odunze is not going to play, and I shouldn't do that. But I think Sutton's going to get a heavy dose of Joey Porter, and it's just going to push that Bo Nix's direction to Josh Reynolds. And in a full point PPR, I mean, all in this case you're looking for is probably 7 points, 8 points. Hate to say it, that's such a low floor, but that's what I'm going to look there. But Tony Pollard, DK, Ridley for JT and Waddle. Who wins? If you're getting JT and Waddle, you win. If you ask me, do you guys disagree?
Wait a minute. To get Jonathan Taylor and Jalen Waddle?
Yes, that's what it looks like.
Yes, yeah, I would say that is the big time winner.
And Yeet.
Now, here's the thing with Waddle without Tua, obviously that does impact a little bit, but
I think it affects him less than Tyreek, to be honest.
See, I don't. I think Tyreek's still going to be the focus. I think they're going to find ways to get the ball into Tyreek's hands more so than like if something happened to Purdy and Skylar Thompson was in San Francisco, I feel like Debo would still be the higher upside. Just because, but you know what I know? I know nothing because none of us have any idea. Just how bad that could impact either one. I mean, the explosiveness of both is great. But, I think we both think you win. Alex has, Alex, hope your leg's completely healed. Congratulations on a great career. I assume he's, checking out. Chiefs fans stick together. Full PPR, pick 2, Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf, Tank Dell, or James Conner. Jorge, give me one that you're super confident in.
I am super confident in James Conner.
Keith, do you agree with James Conner as one of the 2 of those 4?
Yes.
I do as well. So, James Conner, you are in there. Number 2, this might be the difference between me. I'm out on DK. I think the matchup against Christian Gonzalez is a really tough
matchup. Yep.
I mean, DK's dominated, or Gonzalez has dominated everybody he's played at a high level. So
he whooped up on Jamar Chase last week. That was really impressive.
Yes, he did. I mean, it's impressive. So Devonta Smith or Tank Dell? Keith, you start here.
Because I mean, with the AJ Brown stuff, to me, Devonta is a smash play.
Jorge?
If AJ Brown does play, then I'm going Tank. But
you don't have that option though. You can't know that in advance because it's Monday night. So you'll have to make that decision today.
Yeah.
Devonta Smith, then go with Devonta Smith.
And I think either way he's going to be limited. So that's going to be good for Devonta Smith no matter what.
Absolutely. So Devonta Smith, James Conner, those are your 2 picks. Alex, again, thank you for the question. Bryce wants to know J.K. Dobbins or Rashad White today. I think I would lean Dobbins. That I know the answer is Dobbins across the board.
Yes.
And then to follow that up, Zay Flowers or Drake London. I normally wouldn't do this, but I think I'm going to lean Zay. I really don't like what I saw out of Cousins yet. And I think that, I know they're going to have to pass.
That's my thing. It's just, I think the volume for London is going to be up. And again, he had Joey Porter Jr. on him week 1, which is one of the best corners in the NFL. I think it was for 84% of his routes. Porter was on him. And if it was, I agree with your concerns. And if it was a normal opponent for the Ravens where I don't think they're going to be up big and early, I would be in agreement with you. But I just think because of the game scripts and the fact that I think Philly is going to be a score on Atlanta and it's going to be tough for us to run on them, I think that I just think London's going to get a lot of volume to where I don't know how much any of the Ravens passing weapons will get volume wise this week.
I can get into that. I think that's fair. I think it's very fair. It's volume. I'll almost always take the volume play, even with less than perfect quarterback play.
And it was definitely less than perfect quarterback play last week. Good grief.
It was rough.
Oh,
So
it's
IDP side, Jorge, San Francisco, Minnesota. I want to issue another Ivan Pace apology to anybody that preseason took Ivan Pace higher because of that. My sincere apologies. Go ahead.
It's early. Let's not forget that. Yeah. So obviously you're playing Bosa. I think Floyd has some DL3 value, but Warner. Good God, Fred Warner went from being like a boring LB2 to being a LB1. Blake Cashman and what you call it, Ivan Pace. They're eating into each other's snap percentages or opportunities, I should say. Not a fan. Metellus out of Bynum and Harrison Smith would be my guys. And then Andrew Van Ginkel, I believe he's lining opposite what do you call it? Trent Williams, is that correct? Or is that
he will. Yeah. He will.
So they give me Jonathan Grenard there on that set.
Yep.
And yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's rough for all the different rotations in Minnesota, as well as the rotations at linebacker. Start the safeties with some pretty good confidence for the most part. Seattle, run through these games because they're kind of boring. Seattle -3.5 at New England, 38.5 point total. Again, insert we need the Family Guy thing now that you brought it into my head. It's there. Kenneth Walker's doubtful. That kills me. George Fant, doubtful. That kills. Another potential for Seattle to score. Uchenna Nwosu is out, which I'm not going to say helps Jacoby Brissett because whatever. Most likely, like I said, no Kenneth Walker. One of you two. Do either one of you two want to take the option to try to sell me that Zach Charbonnet is a reliable or valuable play this week? Non-DFS as an RB2 only.
No, I don't. I have real concerns about the offensive line. I jinxed it last week saying that they couldn't have the injury concerns that they did last year. And I believe 2 of their offensive linemen got banged up in week 1. And the Broncos got, I think their best press rusher had 7 pressures on just 42 snaps. So I have real concerns about this Seattle offense, particularly this week. Just in general, I don't really like any of their guys this week for DFS or fantasy.
Nope. I think Ramondre looked incredible. Go ahead, Jorge.
I actually like Charbonnet from a receiving back point of view. Obviously, he would be getting lead rushing duties if Walker was out. Charbonnet only giving you 1 yard per carry. That's atrocious. But if they were talking about a PPR, I think you can hold some value there, or even a half PPR. But for me, it's the wide receivers for this game for Seattle, especially the wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think is going to have a decent game.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't have the faith in any of them. I just don't see JSN or Tyler Lockett necessarily having a huge game. But hey, you know what, Tyler? If it's not JSN and it is Tyler Lockett, who's to say that? I mean, he ran 68% of the routes last week. This is Tyler Lockett, but he had a 24% target share.
He just won't go away, man. I keep telling people he will not go away.
But here's the problem with 68% route. Let's say he replicates that. I don't think a 24% target share is the sustainable. That's volatile.
I agree.
And with volatility, I'm out. But Gonzalez against DK does mean someone's going to probably have to get more looks. JSN would be my more likely scenario, especially second most routes on the team, 85% of those out of the slot. It's just not a matchup that I think we're clamoring for anybody, maybe outside of Ramondre, just because last week he looked so good. He ran the 7th most routes, by the way, which is crazy considering he didn't get a target. I'm shocked at that whole scenario there. But
I'm sorry, guys, too. I forgot to mention, and I feel bad because I know we've moved on, but the Browns-Jaguars game, don't be afraid to give Atkins a look if you need a streaming tight end option or if you're looking for a cheap play in DFS, because the Browns have proven Deshaun Watson for his career throws like 20% of his passes to tight ends. We know Njoku's out last week. The 2 top leaders in receiving yards on the Browns were Njoku and Atkins. He's $3,000 this week on DraftKings. if you have, one of these horrible tight end matchups, like I just think he's going to be involved because the Browns are going to have to get rid of the ball quickly. Watson can't throw the ball down the field. You can do a lot worse than Atkins.
T-Bills is mentioned Pat's about to start 2-0. Yep, that is actually one of my my picks upset picks of the week as far as banking on some winning some cash. I can't do that here in Missouri, but you lovely folks out there can. And then mispronouncing that last name, but we know who you're talking about.
You're talking about me? I mispronounce everybody's last name, so
he is notorious for it. I gave him shit, and here's the thing. It's like if, he's proven to me, I don't really care how he says it. He called him Etney for like a year. And and everybody and their mom is not like it wasn't even like he's a backup corner where no one knows how to say or starting corner where it's like, is it Diamador Lenoir or Lenoir? Like that I get because you don't hear his name as much. Travis Etienne was said 24 times a game, but yes, Atkins. Atkins is a diet.
The Georgia public education system for my disabilities and pronunciations there, T-Bills 15.
There you go. All right. Let's get some names right here on the IDP side. Boye Mafe, thumbs up, thumbs down, Jorge. Thumbs up. Tyrell Dodson.
Yeah.
There you go. Jerome Baker.
I think last week was an anomaly. We're gonna go
for those that might be just listening and not watching. That's a thumbs down. Joaquin Phoenix stuff. And here's my favorite one. Very underrated. Absolute stud. Could be. Played over 80% of the snaps last week. 2.5 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for loss, 4 tackles. Keon White going to reprise and take over the Matthew Judon role. Jorge, there it is. Got the thumbs up from Chuck Norris.
And Julian
Chuck Norris. All right. Let's again get through gross so we can get to good. New York Jets -3.5 at Tennessee, 41 point.
Hold on. I think Keith has to leave really soon. So do you want to get through this DFS lineup real quick?
Yeah, let's rock one out real quick. So if you're in the chat and you want to put at the bottom, so obviously if you want to be part of it, I think you have to go over to the YouTube channel to put in the chat for us to really see your picks. So if you want to jump over to the YouTube channel, like, subscribe. When we hit this $100,000, one of you will be selected to win a portion of the prize. I'm leaving it very vague. I promise it won't.
And there is a less than 0% that you will never hear from me, Nate, or Jorge again, and we'll be on an island next week if we do win the $100,000. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I will tell you for 20 grand, I'm not outright leaving and going to some random. What we're like moving to an island to live, or are we talking about like a vacation?
No, I'm saying we would have 33 grand a piece to split on a vacation on an island. So
you don't know how taxes work. We ain't got 33 grand. My man, Georgia education can't read.
I just run from the IRS. I haven't paid taxes in 35 years. What are you talking about?
Now that's what I'm talking about. It's all in Keith's name. No, that's good. All right, let's start. Which position, Keith, for the DFS fans do you like to start with?
Let's do it this way because we're doing MME. And again, there's a difference in cash game and multi-entry. Multi-entry, which this is, it's a minefield, right? Yep. You need to be different. You need to be unique and you need to be good. So let's start with the game that we feel comfortable that the most points are going to be scored. And we will probably, have 3 to 4 players from that game, whether it be 2 and 2 from each side, 3 from one side, 1 from the other. But that is typically the easiest way to build a high scoring lineup, right? So whether that be, Tampa, Detroit, what game are you guys thinking is the most likely shootout this week?
I say Tampa, Detroit for me.
Yeah, Tampa, Detroit.
Okay. So do we want to, I think that we can get away with playing either like a Daniels or a Fields at the QB. And then that way we don't have to stack them. And instead we will run multiple players from the Detroit Tampa game. So let's start with, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a very good value. Either that or do you like Montgomery? We can play either of them. I think they both have value this week.
I have Gibbs ranked higher, so I'm going to go with Gibbs.
Yeah, I would go
Let's
Gibbs
do
there,
Gibbs
too.
then.
When you talk about quarterback, you mentioned Justin Fields, and I know that it can be, after last week, a little tricky. Justin Fields, though, the one thing I looked and saw dating back to 2017, 188 different quarterbacks have rushed for 10 plus times in a game. Of those 188 instances, 73% of them have averaged have been a QB1 on the week. Now I know that leaves a 30% that haven't.
Hey, you just convinced me because Fields is 5,400. He's considerably cheaper than Daniels. Let's throw him in there as well.
Jorge, you good with that?
Yep, sounds good to me.
Anybody in the chat hate it? And if that's the case, you're eliminated from our money winning.
bad.
I'm just kidding. Get in.
So do you guys like Evans or Godwin better this week? Because I think we have to have one of those two Tampa if we're doing a little mini stack from the Tampa Detroit game. Which
Jorge?
one do you like better? Godwin is considerably cheaper.
That's why I like better.
If Godwin the best, he's going to be lining up against Carlton Davis, who gives up an NFL quarterback rating when they're targeted of 125.4 or 152.4, excuse me.
Oh, shit. So perfect is what you're saying.
So Godwin it is. So I like putting St. Brown in here as well because, again, we know Tampa blitzes at one of the highest rates in the NFL. St. Brown has been somebody who has really feasted. I don't think he's going to be super high owned because of the fact that he had that game last week. So for now, we're going to have those three players in there. Let's leave it like that. Let's do the defense actually, which I normally don't do that, but let's go from the, like, say 2,800 and below.
Okay.
Are you guys all in agreement that New England is probably the best value out of those? Or is there another one? Cause you guys are the defensive experts.
I love New England this week, to be honest with you.
You love what?
New England this week.
Yeah. I'm totally fine with New England. I think Seattle, the like you said, the offensive line is rough. And I don't want to go like buying up on, like, the Chargers are the team that if you could just in a vacuum take one, it would be them, but that's not it. So I'm good with the Patriots, 2,800. That leaves us quite a bit of money to spread around.
So what is our salary at right now? 21.1. Is that what that says?
Yep. 5,200 left over. So is there?
All right. So we want to definitely hit Debo, right? Because we've all agreed that we really like Debo Samuel. Let's throw him in there as well.
Yep.
So looking at it, we've got, let's see here. I don't know. Do we want to double stack the Steelers run game and have Harris, or do you think that's too much? Because in some ways, I think that may be too much relying on Pittsburgh's run offense, but it's up to you guys. What do you think?
If I'm banking on Justin Fields 3X in the value, I need more than I want one of those rushing touchdowns. And if that happens, that vultures one of Najee's. And I know Najee is Jorge's RB2. And that's in, I think if you played 1,000 redraft leagues, Najee's a better play. In a one-time off, the likelihood that Fields 3X is his value versus.
All right. Actually, I got it, guys. I know what we're going to do here. We just talked about Derrick Henry, 10 more points per game and wins. Let's throw Derrick Henry in there as our other running back. Run it back with Brock Bowers at tight end, who's 4,400, because we expect, obviously, with the Ravens winning, that means the Raiders will be down. Bowers will get, and then what does that leave us?
Flex with
3,200.
All right.
Okay.
Scroll down to that bad boy. Let's start there.
So how about, I think it's going to be one of the Rams, because I believe that Johnson and Parkinson are both less than 3,200. That's two options. Let's see what other guys are in that range. I believe McMillan's actually 3,300 if we wanted to, like, really go hard in that Tampa game. I think that it really is. I think it's one of those Rams guys because they're going to get volume outside of Cup. I know that Parkinson's.
So Keith, here's a real quick question. So
sure.
What if we took Bowers out and put Parkinson there and we left ourselves with 4,400 at any flex spot? Does that open up more spots to
we can let's try it. The main reason I was doing the Bowers Henry deal is because we're looking at a game script, right? Where if we get the Henry right, I think we're going to get the Bowers right as well. Because if Henry's scoring and the Ravens are up big and they're running, that means the Raiders in the second half particularly are just going to be throw. And we saw Bowers get a 24% target rate, last week. But let's try it, and then we can see what we can get in that 4,400, and then make a decision of the two.
Yeah, because the only reason I am not, and I'm not hesitant on Bowers, I think Kyle Hamilton has the ability to
That's a fair
eliminate one person, which he did against Travis Kelce. And it was, I don't think there's a wide receiver that's going to be able to take over like Rashee Rice, just with that quarterback
So Wanda
situation.
Robinson is at 4,300.
So Keith, for people that maybe don't know, myself included, DK is a full point per reception.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And it's full point PPR, which is always a big deal. That's why, I agreed with Jorge for this. Evans obviously has a higher ceiling, but Godwin in a PPR, we're going to see that, I think most weeks he's going to outscore Evans. It's just going to be the outlier weeks. Evans is going to considerably outscore Godwin, especially when he scores multiple times like he did last week.
Right.
Trying to pull it up so I can get a little better view of it on my phone. Because we are looking we have 43. Is that right? Or what was
45.
it?
45.
Let's see here. Who are you mentioning, Jorge? I'm sorry.
Wandale.
Wandale.
300.
I don't hate that. The only thing is we want to look for somebody that we think can get as much.
Go the other direction, Jorge. Go up to 45.
Let's see here. That's actually not a bad play. How do you guys?
Would you double up tight end and do Bowers and Parkinson, or is that just too much?
No, I don't hate that at all. That's what I was saying. I was looking at that you either go with Johnson or Parkinson basically as the because Johnson's 3,300, so that wouldn't work. That's my fault. So you could do Parkinson, Bowers. I actually do like running Robinson because what did you I know that what was the slot stat, Jorge? I know that they gave up 20 receptions and over 200 yards just last week from receivers in the slot.
Yeah,
he'll have Mike Sanders still, which is just
right.
I mean, all the matchups.
Oh, actually, you know what? I like Kev's not got a bad suggestion.
I know.
Either throwing AD Mitchell, that is a very high upside play, which is what we're looking for.
Just go by search, Jorge.
Yeah, he's 4K.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm down with that. And then here's the thing. What time is that Indianapolis game? Noon, right?
It's at 1 o'clock. Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, well, Central Time is what we operate here. But we'll know if Josh Downs is playing or not by then. And if Josh Downs plays, if that's a pivot still, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe so. But we can definitely do that for sure. And I think I want to point out that many people may look and be like, Jordan Mason is a smash at 5,200 or whatever he's at. Get it. But in this type format, you have to be unique. And I think that this is definitely, while it doesn't look unique, it looks fantastic if I'm looking at the names. Yeah. Justin Fields, we get it. Boom, bust if he does last week. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think that there's an RB1 upside in this matchup with the potential for scoring. Derrick Henry has that same potential. Chris Godwin in the slot has been destroying it. And Jorge and I don't think he's going to get Carlton Davis myself. I actually think he's going to have a better matchup. I think he's going to get Amik Robertson, because I think Carlton Davis is going to have to play outside.
And I actually like, this is, some people may be noticing, well, you got 500 left over. If there's not a defense or a player that we specifically want to spend up for, and everybody so far in our roster, we have reasoning behind, right? Like we think the Lions-Bucks game is the highest scoring one. That's why we have Godwin. That's why we have Gibbs. That's why we have St. Brown. Fields is a standalone player with rushing upside. Henry, we believe that the Ravens are going to be up. He averages 10 more points per game and wins. Samuel, we spoke about at length of all the reasons why he's a great matchup today with the Vikings. And then obviously you're taking shots with the cheaper ones, but by leaving that $500, again, you're making your lineup even more unique because most people are going to want to spend up right to that dollar amount. And when you're trying to play against 300,000 people, I actually like the upside of leaving $400 or $500 out there, because it just means it's less likely somebody has your exact lineup or something close to it.
I think that's fantastic. Just reasoning to support that That is the multiple facet. If this was a cash game against one other person, you're just shooting. You want your max floor, and you want some upside, but not too crazy. And in a format like this, I love it. We've backed up all the plays except for Jameson Williams going to outscore Amon-Ra. That's fine. It's okay. I'm just
And
kidding.
we could change that.
I don't want to though,
totally
because
different.
I
I'm
think
saying
your
totally different
reasoning there is a very good case to be made that Amon-Ra's lower owned than many would suggest or
I bet he's
think.
lower owned than Jameson Williams.
I do too. And I think Derrick Henry's less owned than Jordan Mason.
Yep.
And I think A.D. Mitchell is a great play by Kevin. Kevin, unfortunately, since you are affiliated with Fantasy and Frames, you are exempt from winning the money. It is unfortunate, but if we win, I will get you a chalice to drink out of at the next expo.
But only if he shows us the high school picture of him with the frosted tips, because he's been promising it for months.
What do you think will be on the chalice? It'll be a picture of him with the golden tips that he drinks out of. And so to recap this, DK, go you, Jorge, you do it.
All right. So before we submit the lineup, we got a quarterback, Justin Fields, running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry. Then at wide receiver, we got Chris Godwin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Deebo Samuel. At tight end, we got Colby Parkinson. Our flex, Adonai Mitchell. And for defense special teams, we got the New England Patriots.
And when Keon White has 2+ sacks in this matchup, to the moon, as they say. So go ahead and smash the enter button. Watch it say, this league is full. I think we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Now, Jorge, as a degenerate, puts that in like 10 other lineups so he can keep most of the money himself in other formats. Not a bad move. If you would like to replicate that and shoot that out to the old Twitter sphere or YouTube pages or anything, we'd love to see the support. Keith, I know you have to get running, but
yes, sir.
Thank you very much again for being part of this with this Sunday morning. Tell everybody where you're going to be going next.
You got it. Me and Chris Robin at 12 p.m. on Fantasy Six Pack Sunday Social Show. We talk the entire DFS slate. Chris really leans into the MME or multi-entry plays. I do cash, and we answer questions. So if you have DFS questions, very similar to what we've done this morning on this show, like don't be afraid to ask us. We chop it up, and then we're even going to cover some prop bets and stuff too, because unfortunately, now, me being the degenerate that I am, I've gotten into the parlay prop bets on Sleeper. Thank you so much, Sleeper, for making that so easy for me to waste and spend more of my money. So, but this show is phenomenal. I love seeing all the people starting to give Fantasy and Frames a recognition that I believe it's deserved for a long time. I think pound for pound, analyst for analyst, it's as good as any place on the web, and we have content constantly. So you guys rock. I love doing the show with you. And Nate, you wearing a Falcon shirt made my day. And I think it's a sign we're going to win Monday night. So,
don't put that on me. Nope. I do not know what he's talking about.
Like Wade Barrett, Jorge, I've got some bad news for you.
Prank caller, wrong number. All right, Keith, go kill it.
So
Tell
much,
Chris
guys.
I said hello.
I definitely will, guys.
And we'll see you soon, buddy.
Have a great day. Yes, sir.
Well, Jorge, we're going to be rich here in a little bit. The viewers are going to be rich with knowledge when we wrap out the rest of this Jets-Tennessee game. The Jets, I have a tickle in my throat from all those concerns about Tennessee, about the Falcons winning. I can't get that out of my system. But Jets 3.5-point favorites on the road at Tennessee, 41-point total. Brees and Garrett Wilson are probably the only must starts for me as far as like smash play number ones. Tony Pollard, of course, is going to be in that conversation. I feel like I'm way wrong on where my belief was at on Tony Pollard, but is Tajay Spears even have any flex value aside from getting in the end zone this week?
So I have him as RB4. So if you have multiple flex spots, then yes. If you just have one flex spot, then just outside that range. You got breaking news coming in right now There is optimism that Bears wide receiver Rome Odunze will play tonight on Sunday Night Football.
Gotcha. Okay. Definitely noteworthy. I still really like DJ Moore as a play.
Oh, of course.
We'll talk about the Bears here upcoming because I do have my doubts about, the passing yard upside out of Caleb. Granted, week 1 sample size is really limited and not a barometer, but it is what it is. Let's give you a would you rather or which is worse.
All right.
Calvin Ridley versus Sauce Gardner or Calvin Ridley with Will Levis's accuracy.
It's versus Sauce Gardner. Come on.
It is.
That's a good question, though. I like that.
Thank you. We'll all have Mayo. And for Kevin Tompkins, Alan Lazard. Here we go. We only got 30 minutes to finish this up, and we can spend 26 of it on Alan Lazard. He has L'Jarius Sneed. I'm out. You?
Yep.
Okay, and we move on. Sorry,
Yep.
Kev. IDP side of the ball. Tony Adams, Chuck Clark. Last week they played in the box exclusively together. Both their upsides were out of this world. I don't see that as being something each week they can do. Tennessee might prove otherwise because maybe they stay close.
Yeah, I think the reason why you saw both of those guys in the box as much as you did is because I believe C.J. Mosley was hurt for a good stretch of time. The game. I actually like if I had to pick one, Tony Adams, though. I picked him up off of waivers when I lost Antoine Winfield, and so I definitely am a fan of what he did. Obviously, last week he had 13 tackles or something like that, something crazy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if I had to go with one of those guys, it would be him. Obviously,
Angie has a question IDP, and Angie, you can slip in an IDP question anytime you want. Zach Bond, who last week had the best game of his career. I don't know if it's going to continue or not. I guess that goes into it. Or JOK, who really for the first time in his career was trusted with 100% of snaps. And I hope that's a trend going forward. But this week, which one do you like more? Bond against the Atlanta Falcons or JOK versus the Jags?
Bond. Let's get a repeat. I think the Najee Harris. Excuse me, not Najee Harris. Bijan. Wow, that's the hell of a compare. Okay. Give me Zach Bond trying to stop Najee Harris in this running game.
No, Bijan again.
Bijan. God damn it. Yes, Bijan. Yes, thank
you. No, it's fine. It happens as the viewers trickle down from 1682 to 400 as we butcher it.
At least they didn't go to 666 like they did last week where you and I are like, oh my God, please change.
Exactly. Harold Landry, last week we talked about his volume being indicator of his success, 90% snap share. Any given week when you play that many snaps, there's an opportunity. But the player on the defensive side that I am enamored with, Chris Jones waxed superlatives about him before the draft, and that's Tavondre Sweat. Defensive tackle leagues, if you have that option, he is a guy that for 350, he is incredible. He's quick. He's got good hands. He has that penetration ability that any given week he could have 2 or 3 TFLs, tackle for losses for people that might not know that, and a sack. So Tavondre Sweat, a name just to pay attention to. Probably too early for many IDP leagues, but it is what it is. Happy Sunday to you, Ryan. Pick one defense, Jorge. Patriots, Jags, Seahawks.
Patriots.
I'm going to agree. We just put $100,000 on the line, basically. Not really, but close. So, yeah, Patriots as well. The next game on the slate hits close to you, literally and figuratively. New York Giants at Washington Commanders. Washington 1.5-point favorites, 43-point total. Linebacker standout last week, Darius Musaw. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but we'll figure that out. That's a freebie I get because I'd never heard of the guy prior to last week, so it is what it is. And Emmanuel Forbes out for the Commanders. Yes. Jorge, how about must starts in this game? Jaden Daniels. Yes, I guess based on where you have him, is he in your top 12 QBs?
He's definitely within the top 12. Let me pull it up right now. He is my number 6. So yes, definitely.
Okay. He is a must start for me as well. Outside of Jaden Daniels, the must start Okay, Brian Robinson.
I think Austin Eckler has a good matchup this week. He's a good flex option. The secondary for the Giants is suspect. I don't know if I'm at the point yet, and this hurts me because I have his jersey hanging up on the wall over here. I don't know if Terry McLaurin is a must start. I'm getting to the point with him where I need to see some dominant performances in a row before I call him must start ever again. I think I've been banking too much for too long on the potential of Terry McLaurin, not the actual output of Terry McLaurin.
Okay, here are the notable inactives as of right now. Running back Kenneth Walker is inactive. Zach Charbonnet, of course, is tight end Jake Ferguson is out. He is not going to play today. I think that just increases the likelihood that Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb are going to be the main focal points of that offense. Wide receiver Josh Downs is out. Kevin Tompkins, the A.D. Mitchell recommendation, as well as our DK lineup, is going to benefit from that. Offensive tackle Jack Conklin. Talked about that with Cleveland. Now Conklin and Jedrick Wills, I believe, are both out for this matchup. Huge for all Cleveland Browns. Actives are Joey Bosa, pass rusher for the Chargers. Big input, especially for the Chargers defense, which if you have a streamable option, I thought was the number one option on the week. On that same team, Josh Palmer is active. So the concern, or whatever you want to call that, with the passing upside of Justin Herbert is probably unaffected because Palmer's going to just be another piece. And Jaden Reed is active. That's pretty much, that's your active and inactive list right now. If anything else pops up that we noticed throughout the moment or the day, we'll pass along. Actually, one other updated Jets cornerback DJ Reed is inactive. Jorge, that actually has more impact than we're thinking, because
D-Hop.
Exactly. But I don't love it because I don't trust D-Hop. Like his value, like with DJ Reed, makes me 100% certain I'm not going to start him. Now you take DJ Reed out, and it gives you that little bit of like, well, maybe in a super deep flex option. And I have some of those to get to look at. So we better hurry up.
Well, I love how we're bashing Titans wide receivers, or at least speaking negative. And our friend Hollywood Titan is in the chat. Great show, guys. Yep. Is it still a great show? Because
exactly.
Thank you, Hollywood. All right, continue. I'm sorry, you were saying.
No, it's okay. Hollywood knows we'll always support him and have his back. And let's go Titans. Sorry, Jets fans. One thing to notice for the IDP side for Tennessee, Ernest Jones. They mentioned earlier this week that his snaps will increase. So I do expect to see Ernest Jones start to creep in and hopefully get that full-time role there when he does. Maybe it's an early buying window that could be closing. I don't know. Do you think the same?
Yeah, I think before the snaps, you said it right there, before the snaps get too high, get them if you don't have them already.
Gotcha. Back to the Giants in Washington. We're talking about plenty of maybes. I think Malik Neighbors is a great play against this Washington secondary. Wandale, we said, is a very high volume, probably more floor than ceiling play, but still you need 4 plays on your team. Brian Robinson Jr., we talked about some upsides in a pinch. You mentioned Eckler. Devin Singletary, potentially.
That's a good matchup. I mean, he has a good matchup, but he is a good upside play in a pinch, like you were saying.
Yeah, I think Singletary is also a floor play. Like if you want to get 7 points out of your flex 2 spot or flex 3 spot, if you have that many, you know what? A starting running back is always better than some garbage like third wide receiver just shooting for the moon. And then IDP side of the ball, Jorge, give it to us.
Look, I actually like Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau this week. I'm not scared by either of the Washington tackles. I think, what the hell happened to these two guys in week 1? You're going to find out what happened, what's going to happen this week. One of them is going to get the Jaden Daniels, but I definitely like Brian Burns if I had to pick one or the other. Bobby Okereke, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu does need a sack, I believe, to be viable. He didn't really have the game I was hoping for coming right off the bat here for Dan Quinn's offense. Jeremy Chen, playing the right part of the field, playing closer to the line of scrimmage, just needs more of that full-time role before we start getting him into somebody we're discussing as far as a must-start at defensive back, or at least a good flex play option. And you're muted.
Sorry, I was dying from some cough that I've picked up this Sunday morning, and I've texted Carrie a couple times to please bring me some water, but she is ignoring me or not got her phone. But maybe she's watching this. I can use some water so I don't definitely run off the other 1,700 people listening to me coughing in the background or being on mute. But Los Angeles Rams at Arizona -1, 47.5 point total. This was one of the games that we talked about during DK. You pick a spot where you're going to have real big scoring potential. I worry a little bit because the Los Angeles Rams offensive line is bad. Good news is for them, Arizona defense is even worse somehow. And so it definitely will be a shootout. We know Cooper Kupp's going to be in, Kyron Williams, Trey McBride. I say yes to James Conner. Do you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
What about a quarterback, Matthew Stafford? In a one quarterback league, is Stafford in your QB1 conversation?
He is high in my rankings. Let me just, because it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, he's my quarterback 4. I'm not. Yes, the offensive line is a concern. But Joe Matz on the Daily Fix on Friday night, our DFS show, which you can catch every week at 9 p.m. Eastern, said it perfectly. If they were going against some like elite pass rushing unit, that would be a concern having Stafford so high. We're not worried about the Arizona's pass rushing unit as a whole. He's going to be fine. Matthew Stafford, that is.
I agree. Here, let's do a barometer check. Demarcus Robinson. We know that that's a name that both you and I talked about preseason. A lot of our rosters probably have him because if in the case that Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp were to get hurt, he was already on the field. We thought there was valuable upside in that passing offense. Let's do a barometer check of the heat of him as a wide receiver 3 in your lineups. Demarcus Robinson or Terry McLaurin?
McLaurin.
Okay. Demarcus Robinson or Jaden Reed?
Demarcus Robinson.
Demarcus Robinson or Christian Kirk?
Christian Kirk.
Okay. Demarcus Robinson or Calvin Ridley?
Demarcus Robinson.
And last but not least for me, Demarcus Robinson or Tank Dell?
So I don't like the Nico Collins matchup this week, which means I like the Tank Dell matchup better.
There you go. That I know we could continue on that line because there's plenty of others that people will say, hey, what about? But it's Demarcus Robinson. Most aren't going to have to make those choices necessarily, but some will.
True. Well, speaking of, what about the over 1,700 people on X watching the show right now? Seriously, thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind, if you haven't already, head over to our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, notification bell. We really would appreciate y'all's support.
Very much so. I know a wide receiver who could use the support of his quarterback, and that's Marvin Harrison Jr. But is it Kyler Murray's job to feed Marvin Harrison Jr.? Did you hear that quote?
Yeah. I mean, that is literally his job. Throw to your wide receivers, especially your first round top 10 wide receiver who people were calling generational, even though I hate that. I hate that expression to the nth degree.
I do too. And you hate it, probably like I do, because generational means like the best in 75 years, roughly. Isn't that the age?
Sure.
I mean, that's what I would consider a generation. Is a 75-year gap. That's usually generational. So, but regardless, we're not here to define what generational means. We do know that Kyler Murray is going to be a start. Are you starting Marvin Harrison Jr. comfortably as a wide receiver 2-3?
Yes, I am. Okay. I think it's a bounce back game this week. I have him as my wide receiver at 19.5 PPR. So, feeling comfortable there.
There you go. That makes sense. We talked about James Conner on that offense. Of course, on the other side, Colby Parkinson is a nice option at tight end. We just put him in our DraftKings lineup. I think that the best part is he without Puka, I believe the pathway to targets is going to go Cooper Kupp. We know. And I think Colby Parkinson and Demarcus Robinson are probably a close number 2 overall. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
I love Colby Parkinson. He is definitely somebody cheap for DFS that you can get. Obviously, we drafted him in our DK lineup that we said a couple minutes ago. and also a great waiver wire addition for your teams this week.
Absolutely. As Kevin pointed out, Marvin Harrison ran like he was part of the greatest generation. Yes, he did look like he was in the Senior Olympics at time. If you saw yesterday, Arch Manning ran faster than Marvin Harrison Jr. That is, it's amazing. Good old internet and quick response, because it would have taken 5 weeks for a joke like that to come up when Peyton was actually playing. They could have. We don't have the return quite as much, but it is what it is. IDP side of the ball, Jorge. Are you impressed with Jared Verse as much as I am?
Not bad, right? For a rookie coming, for somebody who we talked about earlier that takes normally defensive linemen or edge rushers a couple of years to get under baptism under fire, right?
Yeah, exactly. Who else you got in that matchup?
I am very skeptical as far as the linebacking situation here for the Rams. Coincidentally, for the Arizona Cardinals, I think Kazir White, obviously. I'm jumping back and forth between teams. Buda Baker for the Arizona Cardinals. Cameron Curl, although I think we were talking about this earlier or off air, like the snap percentages were kind of not as high as we were thinking for Cameron Curl, but he was still somewhat on the field the majority of the time at the box safety position.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much who I got as far as like must starts from these guys. Anybody I'm missing here, Nate?
No, not that I can think of. I think that's pretty much who I'm looking at as well. The next matchup is Pittsburgh at Denver. Another gross one, 36.5 point total. Pittsburgh's 2.5 point favorites. Guard Isaac Seumalo's out. Russ is still questionable, but I think Justin Fields is starting. I don't think he's been ruled out per se, but he's going to be out. Devon Bailey is out. We talked about Justin Fields, big bounce back. I don't know what to take of the running back position in Denver. Are you choosing Javonte over Jaleel? Are you choosing Jaleel over Javonte? Are you choosing both as maybe deep flex? Or are you choosing neither?
So last year, a lot of the things people were talking about last year in regards to Jaleel McLaughlin was that his efficiency numbers were great. His opportunities were not compared to Javonte Williams. Well, last week we saw him lead the team in rushing attempts with 10, albeit Javonte had 8. But again, efficiency was very good. Yards after contact percentage was good. Yards after contact per attempt was good. Efficiency right back to being up there for Jaleel. So if I had to pick one, it would be McLaughlin.
Gotcha. Right. Same. Najee, you've talked on
super high.
Super high. I was going to ask if he was an RB1 or 2. He's the RB2 for you. We on the same team, George Pickens. George Pickens went from AJ Terrell in week 1 to Patrick Surtain this week. If you knew your forecasting, you had your book that didn't tell you the outcome, just told you that he was going to get 30% target share and nearly 75% air yard share, would you still feel comfortable or icky knowing this matchup?
Yeah, because I feel like Patrick Surtain is just going to help negate all that. Like, you can target me all you want. You can give me all the deep passes to get my air yards, where they are. I still got to catch the ball, and it doesn't help when I have one of the highest paid defensive backs in NFL history and one of the best defensive backs in all of the NFL covering you. Yeah, so I'm not too high on Pickens this week.
Remember the list earlier, those 4 receivers, 20% target share, less than 50% catchable balls. Cortland Sutton was on that list, and now we'll likely have Joey Porter. Same question as Pickens. Sutton, 30% target share, whatever the air yard share. What upside do you see out of that? Wide receiver 3 max, or is he outside your wide receiver 3? Flex only.
We're talking about
Cortland Sutton.
Cortland Sutton. I want to say he's outside my. Yeah, he's outside my wide receiver 3. He's like 4 or 5 for me. So definitely not a fan of Cortland Sutton this week. And I wasn't joking about the Reynolds talk earlier. I think he actually has probably the highest upside out of all the wide receivers here for the Denver Broncos, which is gross.
That is gross. But it is what it is. And Pat Freiermuth is number 2 pass catcher on Pittsburgh. Maybe if Fields can improve his accuracy, I think that he's a tight end worth playing this week. On the IDP side, Jorge, let us know what you got.
Look, so you don't get past TJ Watt here. I mean, he's obviously somebody that you're starting. I am a huge fan of Jonathan Cooper. I think the consistency is starting to come around on him. Alex Singleton is obviously a play there. I was really disappointed in PJ Locke last week. He just didn't have the numbers that you were looking for. But I don't want to lose faith on PJ Locke, but I'm not starting him this week. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, not Junior Wilson, Peyton Wilson. Eaten to good old Landon Roberts. Landon Roberts' snap percentage, so it's only a matter of time there. Patrick Queen had a really rough week last week. Did not actually perform as the LB1 that we were thinking he had the potential to be, but I think he gets I'm going to give him another week to prove me wrong or prove me right.
Another week to prove it's not a glitch in the matrix of Cincinnati in the early season. They travel to Kansas City, 6-point favorites. Kansas City is with a 48-point total. Cincinnati's had a rough start to the season back to back. There's plenty of passing options in this game. There's plenty of options overall. Patrick Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice, Jamar Chase, Travis Kelce. I didn't mention Joe Burrow. Is that a good call by leaving Joe Burrow off that list?
No, I don't think it's a good call. I think Joe Burrow rises to the occasion this week. Especially, I think if memory serves me correctly, I'm checking the list here. I think T. Higgins is good to go this week, although he was listed as doubtful. I didn't see anything come across the news wire just now that he is being declared out.
Because it's a 3:00 game. They don't have to declare inactives yet.
That would be why. So if Higgins is good to go, I'd go Burrow, but you can't make that decision now. So yeah, I think then in that case you are correct.
T. Higgins is out.
He is out.
Yep, that's what it says at least. I don't know what I trust. It's the internet, so we're gonna say I don't care. Even if he plays, I'm still out on Joe Burrow. I don't trust.
Really?
I just don't. I mean, I have him as my QB 15 right now. So
that's fair.
That means I have him out, I guess. So it is what it is. That's
That's
all right. Let's do this. Okay, Joe Burrow or Baker Mayfield?
Baker.
Joe Burrow or Matthew Stafford?
Stafford.
Joe Burrow or Jared Goff?
Goff.
Joe Burrow, CJ Stroud?
Stroud.
Jaden Daniels?
Come on.
Kyler Murray?
Kyler Murray.
Anthony Richardson?
Richardson.
Mahomes,
Wow.
Jackson, Hurts, and Allen. So you have him as your QB 14 then. So you're out on Joe Burrow as well. I've made that decision for you. Congratulations. You didn't even know it. And we move on.
I was hoping that T. Higgins was going to be bump him up more, but yeah, now that you're saying he's out, that kind of brings him back down.
Oh, the internet says he's out. I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know if believability. Do I believe Zach Moss is going to be the lead running back this week? I don't know. You say yes. I say no. Does that mean that it's probably best served that you start him in a matchup? I said this for like 3-4 straight years now with these Chiefs Bengals matchup. Whichever team can establish a running game first has always won the game. And it wouldn't shock me if the same thing holds true this week as they try to establish it. And I think if they do that, it's probably going to be lean on Zach Moss to start. Where do you have Zach Moss in your rankings? Is he flex for you?
Actually, I have him late RB2. I have him right between coincidentally Jordan Mason and David Montgomery. So I'm kind of I'm going all in on Zach Moss here. You know, we saw the target volume get there last week, albeit not for a lot of production, but the targets were there. The reception was there, as well as the Chase Brown. We all wanted him to be the guy that usurps Zach Moss, and maybe he will later on in the season. But if week one is any indication, it's the Zach Moss show, and they're going to need him, especially if now Burrow, is not able to predict that he has been used to.
Very interesting. That's where the people. I'm shocked we didn't have more Zach Moss based questions or anything like that. Pretty impressive out of 1,900 people watching. Not too many questions overall, which means they're getting all the answers in the content that we're providing. They don't have to ask the question, so that's good to know. Is Xavier worthy of being in your flex or wide receiver 2-3 area where you got him?
I have him at 31, so he is flex worthy. But I still think this offense runs through the wide receiver group runs through Rashee Rice. I'm not willing to say Xavier Worthy is Tyreek Hill 2.0, where he's going to be hyper targeted on all these passes. Not yet.
No, I'm right there with you. What about Yoshivas Cincy? Any another receiver besides Jermaine Burton, maybe? Yeah.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, that's pretty much worth the conversation. From the IDP side of the ball, KC wise, I always like George Karlaftis. He's definitely not. He's not going to wow you with the pressure rates and the win rate stats on PFF. But if you watch the game, he's a high motor guy. But he plays plenty of snaps, and he will never quit, which always plays well, especially if you get a lead in a high scoring game like this. Justin Reed had a great week, and Nick Bolton has been just an okay. You know what Nick Bolton did? Nick Bolton turned into like Fred Warner in terms of IDP. Just boring, 8, 9 tackle game. Hits hard, misses tackle sometimes. But I still like him. Just don't love him. What about Cincinnati side?
So I think I saw somewhere in the week that Logan Wilson was questionable. I need to double check to see if he's
correct.
If he's good to go, obviously Logan Wilson. If not, Jermaine Pratt, who I always think Jermaine Pratt is a good linebacker 3, solid producer, consistent where he's at. Obviously, you're starting Trey Hendrickson at that position. I need to look at Von Bell's snap counts because I want to see how he did it at box safety last week. But while I'm looking that up, that's pretty much those are the guys they're jumping out to me. Anybody on your end?
Not any more than what you just mentioned. Von Bell played a ton of snaps in the box, which was great. Justin Reed did as well. Justin Reed was huge. 53% of the box snaps in the box. Second on the team in tackles with 9, 8 solos. That being said, the only name that really took a turn for the worse is Dax Hill. Dax Hill went from being that safety slot type, gonna upgrade, and he's now playing outside wide. So I'm out. So, Rougarou is back. Bonjour. What's up, my man? It's good to see you. It is a long time no see. Blackman is out. Yes, that sucks. So Keyshawn Nixon, no return yards in this game, by the way, and his scoring. Or Trent McDuffie, who I think, based off of what I can imagine is going to happen, is he's going to have his fair share of old Jamar. What do you think? I mean...
Yeah, Keyshawn Nixon, Fantasy Pro scoring, finishes the DB7 with 7 total tackles, 6 solo, which you'll love to see. Was utilized as a pass rusher, got you a sack, so he had good pressure rate, pass deflection. Going against Indy, see that's the thing for Indianapolis is that I think it's going to be a Jonathan Taylor game. Obviously, have his RB1. So to answer your question, I think you go Trent McDuffie.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a tough one. I always usually take the slot corners, but in this matchup, the likelihood that Trent McDuffie has more splash play. Trent McDuffie's a better player than Nixon, and in this case, I'll take the better player for sure. And Preston wants a week 5 call out to Chris. Pie bet. You paying attention, Chris? His Dolphins.
Do you remember last year the pie bet with these guys?
Oh yeah.
Preston took the pie to the face, and then like the pie foil tray was molded to the size of his face. Like he went really hard on that.
He didn't bitch out with doing 2 little mini pie tricks. He did a real man style.
I took it to the eyeballs. It wasn't even like to the eyeballs, man.
Well, yeah. I'm just kidding. You did it well. I don't know what that's like yet, buddy. I haven't had to take one of those yet. I haven't lost. So, I mean, anytime you guys want to challenge any bets, let me know. I'm here. I'm willing to take it on. Chicago at Houston. Colby Conway couldn't be here with us, but I told him I would make sure to do the Texans proud. They are 6.5-point favorites, 45.5 implied point total. Houston probably will put up 45 of those. The Bears will put up the other half. Keenan Allen didn't practice for 3 days straight, most likely not playing. Rome Odunze got limited practice on Friday. We've heard reports that he is probably going to play. Dalton Schultz got a full practice on Friday. Most likely he plays. Jorge, the obvious ones. Stroud, Mixon, Nico Collins. Anybody I'm missing?
I think Dell is a must start here. I think he, like I said, I think Nico has a somewhat tough matchup this week. He'll get his to a certain degree, but I think the upside there is with Tank Dell.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Stephon Diggs, his touchdowns really saved his game last week. I don't think he gets 2 touchdowns against this week. I think you're going to see, the target share, I want to say, was there for Nico and Dell. The air yard share is there for Nico and Dell. So it really, I think it's going to be a Tank Dell game.
I'm right there with you. I don't know about the other side of the ball. I worry about Chicago, and I don't think Caleb Williams is going to throw for 94 yards. I think it's going to be more normal than whatever last week was. But I don't know if he's going to have enough to support 2 different wide receivers. So then it's the question, is it going to be a DJ Moore game, or are you worried about the impact that Rome Odunze can have? Because I don't think it's going to be anybody else, especially, tight end. It's not even Cole Kmet. Now it's Gerald Everett.
Yeah. No, so let me preface this one way. If for some reason Keenan Allen plays, I think I'm going to flip. I think Keenan Allen's going to move up some of the wide receiver 2 option. I think it's still DJ Moore, but I wouldn't think he's going out there as a decoy. Let's put it like that. So DJ Moore definitely, regardless of Odunze playing. Like you said, the tight end situation is craptacular. I want to talk about this DeAndre Swift situation because let me tell you, man, not great, right? We saw him have some success early on in Philadelphia last year, and then that went away real quickly. And so now you're going from the best offensive line to not the best offensive line in Chicago, comparatively when it comes to run blocking or pass blocking or both. This is kind of concerning for DeAndre Swift managers.
Yeah, it should be. It shouldn't be, but after, again, 1 game sample, we'll temper expectations, but it is there. Let's talk about the IDP side of the ball, Jorge. Start off, give me a little bit of the Chicago news.
So Montez Sweat, So Montez Sweat, he had a down game last week. Now you got to remember he is coming off of an injury during training camp, so he could be just getting his feet back together. Don't sweat the situation, Adam. I added him to my roster because somebody dropped him because they were disappointed with his week 1 performance. I would definitely keep the faith there with Montez Sweat. TJ Edwards, obviously must start guy. I want to say that Shaquan Brisker should be a must start. Given, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about Shaquan Brisker right now. But again, 1 week sample, we shouldn't just write him off just quickly. Yes, that's for Chicago. Tremaine Edmonds is like, he's a gross LB.
Gross.
So
be better.
For Houston, obviously Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson, Henry To'oTo'o had a great week last week. But I still think Azeez Al-Shaair is the one, if you had to pick between the 2, that you did want. We saw Jalen Petrie move more into the slot. Yep. Do you think that elevates his fantasy output?
No, nope. I think it does the opposite. I think that slot corner for a person who might have been an outside corner to start is an improvement. But I think going from a box safety type role to a slot corner, just if anything, it's a lateral move, but I think it has a negative impact myself. So I've moved Jalen Petrie rest of season down quite a bit from where I would have had him.
We got a question from Ken Sonnenberg. Dalton Schultz or Dallas Goedert this week? I think Schultz, because of the Nico matchup, kind of helps bump him up a little bit, but he's still fourth in the pecking order. If there's no A.J. Brown,
that's why I'm leaning Goddard.
So Goddard, it would be the guy for me.
That's what I'm leaning, just because A.J. Brown situation. And that leads us to the Monday night game, Atlanta at Philadelphia. Philadelphia currently 6.5-point favorites. A.J. Brown news can impact that a little bit one way or the other. But for Atlanta, big loss. Nate Landman is out, who I know Nate Landman's not like a household name, but Nate Landman is a very good, impactful linebacker for Atlanta. When they need a run stop, he's demonstrated he can be, disruptive at the line for a linebacker position. But something makes me feel even better about Saquon. A.J. Brown being limited on Friday and being a game-time decision makes me even happier for Saquon, happier for Devontae Smith. Doesn't really move the needle as much for Jalen Hurts. It doesn't help, but it doesn't hurt as much either. But gotcha. Sorry, that was terrible. But I will say, I love the amount of games, whatever, Monday night games. So Keith talked about it earlier. Let's say you have a decision. You have two players. They're close in your rankings. Player ranked number 15 plays Sunday at noon. That's what we'll say your flex spot 1 plays at noon. Your other flex option, who's less down your list, 5 or 6 spots below, but plays Monday night. Do you lean the person who plays Monday night over the Sunday just so you have it? I do.
You say you play the Monday night person versus Sunday?
So let's say you have you're choosing between Dallas Goedert and Dalton Schultz, and you have your choice. I'm leaning. If you had them next neck and neck, I'm leaning with
Goddard.
Yeah, we got it because I like Monday night games.
Yeah, it's 1, the matchup. 2, it's Monday night game. And 3, let it ride, baby. This is fantasy football. This is a game. This is fun. Like you don't have to play it safe all the time. Like if the rationale is there, if the narrative is there, if the numbers back it up. I mean,
I don't know those reasons. I don't need rationale or narratives or numbers. I want chaos, and I want Monday night to come down to it when I'm down 11 and I need one person who's supposed to put up 8, put up 13 and win. It's much more demoralizing than it is going in when the person knows they have all day Monday when they lost or all day Monday they have to sweat. I like ruining people's Mondays by thinking, oh shit, I need Tank. This guy has Tank Dell and he needs 16. And then, they're on every chat in the morning. What do you need to win? Oh, Monday morning miracle. I need Tank Dell not to get 16. And then I crush their soul. That makes me feel good, but I'm kind of crazy. I also feel good about Bijan, Jalen Hurts. Did you hear the new on Rich Eisen show with, I don't think Key and Peele both are there.
Ladidi McConkey.
Ladidi McConkey or whatever. That's great. So, yeah, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, potentially if he plays. Let's say he plays, you're still starting A.J. Brown, right? You can't not play him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Devontae Smith, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. It's right there. What about the deepest flex plays? Let's say, for instance, say you're in King's Classic and you have 3 flex spots, and that third flex spot is Darnell Mooney. Comfort level on a scale of 1 to not a chance. Where are you at with, I guess that would be not against a 1. You get it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you give an answer? Was that an answer, or was that just a grunt?
I think that's the best answer you're going to get for 3 flex spots there.
That's true.
So, yeah.
All right. What's the chance that Twitter viewers get to the year that you or I were born in, which is 1979 for me, 1980, 4 for you?
2.
82? Oh, come on. We only need 30. We're getting the 1961. So they're going to have to, if the IDP numbers don't bring it in, nothing else will. To highlight Ken's question about Goddard. Goddard did have a 15.8% first read share. So couple that with A.J. Brown potentially being out, and it reaffirms my Dallas Goddard movement. IDP. Let's talk about the linebackers we said earlier. Zach Bond. Just do Philly's IDP.
I mean, that's kind of tricky because Philly is always a conundrum when it comes to edge rusher, defensive line situation here. We did hear from Vic Fangio last week that Jacoby Dean should be the guy next to Bond. Whether that changes during, whether that was just coach speak or not,
Yep.
it's a different story. But I'd still go Bond here. For Atlanta, Nate Landman out. I think that actually bumps up Caden Ellis.
Yep.
Matt Judon, he did have a good snap percentage last week. And I think he got a sack also. I think maybe you see.
You can do it.
He'll get pressures. He may get a quarterback hit. I don't know if he gets a sack on Jalen Hurts this week. If I had to go then for the defensive back situation here, I would go probably, where Jesse Bates as a DB3, and then
where do you have him?
Yeah.
You have Jesse Bates as a DB3?
What do you have him as?
The DB6.
Really?
Yeah. I love Jesse Bates in this matchup. Dang it.
Why do you like Jesse Bates in this matchup?
Well, I mean, we have to go back till, let's see. What game was it? In 2023, you'd have to go back to week number 8 when and again, Fantasy Pro scoring, which it varies, to when he didn't have at least 11 fantasy points.
I guess that's a fair point. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I don't know how fair it is, but
I don't know. He's pretty good. Maybe that's the reason I have him as my top 5 DB right there. Yeah, that's fair.
I like Jesse Bates a lot. But that mean don't listen to me. Hell, I was like 23rd in rankings last week. I wasn't doing shit.
Yeah, we were off our game this week. We'll be better this week, folks. We promise.
Well, now that I have the IDP roundup, which if you haven't read yet, you can go over to fantasyandframes.com on Fridays, read that. Rachel, if you know her, at Tootsie Pop. I'm sure there's numbers in there too, and I'm forgetting. And forgive me for that, Rachel.
Yeah.
I sent her, and she even said she enjoyed it's a data dump, just ways to help you learn. Can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him smoke cigarettes. That type of scenario where it's I know exactly. You try to give some information and hope it helps. And I'm going to drag this on because I got one more viewer until 1979, and then I'm going to cancel the show before it gets to yours. That way I win, you lose. But tell everybody what we have in store for them this upcoming week, because we need to set some lineups as everybody else.
Well, you're at 1979 there, so I don't know if you wanted to do that now or not. But so we got One Foot Down, our college fantasy football podcast with Chris Battistell and Mike Haas tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. On Tuesdays, we have our waiver wire show, followed by Around the Ice, our fantasy hockey show, as well as the Stew with JT Brew. We got then on Wednesday, Fantasy and Frames Wednesdays with Dynasty 365, Fourth and Frames, and Shoot the Gap.
Oh, 1 second. Breaking news. Jaguars tight end Evan Ingram suffered a hamstring injury in pregame warmouts and is now out today.
Wow.
So get Evan Ingram out of your lineups. For those of you 1,983 that are still listening, I understand if you jump away from here to go do that right now, but come back.
Get Colby Parkinson if he's on your waiver wire.
Yes, sir.
Right now.
Great call.
Well, that we surpassed both of our birth years. That's fantastic. Okay. Anyway, so going back to the Stew JT Brew, college and NFL betting shows this week. Dynasty evaluation with John McGlynn and Justin Taylor should be on Thursdays afternoon. Great turnout for that. Thank you very much for watching all of that. The Daily Fix show with Keith Fleming, who you saw earlier today. Joe Matz and Kevin Tompkins coming at you Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, you're back here next week on the Fantasy Football Kickoff show starting at 9 p.m. Eastern.
All right. So for the 1984 that have joined us throughout today. I can't thank you enough. I hope you gained enough information to help you win your league. And I hope we help you win your DFS contest because you went over to the YouTube channel, Fantasy and Frames, and subscribed. And we will pay attention to that when we win this cash, and we'll send it out that way. If you have any other information, obviously questions, IDP related or offense, at Nate Markham, I'd be happy to answer at Jorge B. Edwards. On behalf of Jorge, myself, and the rest of the Fantasy and Frames, wow, Fantasy and Frames crew.
It's been 3 hours. It's okay.
I know my mouth is like done. Good luck today. We will see you next week.